Chapter 2296. Luo Xingtian and Luo clan's great elder Luo Yunshan were surprised when they saw Song Yanhai and Su Fang's 1,000 guards arrive in front of the main hall and leave in a hurry. They looked at each other with confusion in their eyes. Great elder, did Song Yanhai notice something? Luo Xingtian secretly transmitted his voice to Luo Yunshan. Luo Yunshan snorted. Humph, he might have noticed something, but so what? Luo Xingtian said. I'm worried that Su Fang won't enter the main hall after Song Yanhai left. It's a pity that we missed the opportunity to kill him. Seizing the prison suppressing codex and the Heaven Supervisor token is a big deal. Killing Su Fang can be put aside for now. He might have already died in the ruins outside the Divine Law prison. There's no need to pay attention to him. Luo Yunshan snorted at Su Fang. He then transmitted his voice worriedly. Are you sure the prison suppressing codex is in the main hall? I entered the main hall with the help of the prison suppressing divine brush and saw it with my own eyes. How can I be wrong? The Heaven Supervisor token is missing, but it's not difficult to sense the Heaven Supervisor token as long as we get the prison suppressing codex. It's just that the prison suppressing codex is protected by a powerful array. Even an overgod would find it difficult to break the array. Moreover, the shackles in the main hall are astonishing. Any expert's cultivation will be suppressed to below the overgod level. Even Emperor Realm experts are probably the same. We have no choice but to use these experts to break the array. Luo Yunshan nodded. You're smart. You know how to use the prison suppressing divine brush to seal the heavenly law pass restriction and attract all the experts to the front hall. Luo Xingtian couldn't help but feel smug. If I don't even have this little bit of cunning, how can I reach the peak in the future? If you were really capable, the Tree of Stars wouldn't have slipped away from your hands in Sin Garden. Luo Yunshan's words made Luo Xingtian dispirited. He gnashed his teeth in hatred at the thought of the Tree of Stars. He couldn't figure out why the Tree of Stars would disappear without a trace. Luo Yunshan's eyes were filled with worry. If that's the case, these experts who were used will all hate my Luo clan in the future. Luo Xingtian's deep eyes flashed with ruthlessness. Wait until we enter the main hall and obtain the suppression codex. Then, we will... Luo Yunshan raised his eyebrows. Unless it's absolutely necessary, don't act rashly. If news of this gets out, our clan will become the target of public criticism, especially with Di Yuan around. If something happens to him, even the supreme experts of the Imperial people will be alerted. Also, the E-clan is not to be trifled with. If Di Yuan doesn't know when to back down and tries to snatch the prison suppressing codex from me, don't blame me for being ruthless. Luo Xingtian snorted coldly in his heart. The cultivators on the square gradually made their way to the main hall, including the Grand Elder of the Disciplinary Hall, the Buddha of good fortune from the Pure Land of the Far West, the experts of the E-clan, and the rogue cultivators from various god realms. Since they couldn't enter the main palace, these experts all headed to the side palace to find a way to enter the main palace. For the sake of seizing the treasures, some experts fought fiercely, especially the rogue cultivators. Any treasure in the divine prison of Heaven's law was a supreme treasure to them, and they would risk their lives to seize it. Some experts stayed in front of the main palace. Their thoughts were simple. If they couldn't enter, no one else could either. There were also experts who found tokens in the side palace and intended to enter the main palace, but they were blocked by the experts guarding the main palace door. In the end, there was a stalemate. After all, only a small number of people were able to obtain tokens. Most people couldn't enter the main palace, and even those who obtained tokens didn't dare to provoke the crowd and force their way into the main palace. Su Fang watched coldly from behind, but he was secretly comprehending the characters on the screen. Time passed day by day. Although Su Fang was constantly devouring pills and spiritual items, his aura was withering day by day. Comprehending the characters that contained the supreme, heavenly Tao's order profound meaning was extremely taxing on him. Comprehending those characters not only consumed the power of his primordial spirit, but also his dermic power, the power of the yin-yang world, and even his vitality and blood chi were greatly consumed. Even with his recovery ability, It was difficult to make up for the rate of consumption. However, his comprehension of the tadpole characters on the screen was getting deeper and clearer. As his comprehension deepened, his Tao palace of heaven and earth also quietly changed. Just like the time when he comprehended the law of heaven plaque in the front palace, the world in his body became more orderly and strict. Moreover, he gained more than last time. About 10 years later, QL11 in front of the main palace, 2,000 to 3,000 cultivators gathered, and the confrontation became more and more intense. It seemed that a conflict was inevitable in order to enter the main palace. You guys could take your time. I can use this time to cultivate. Su Fong looked at the crowd with a mocking gaze. He knew that Luo Xingtian would definitely stand out and continue his plot. What Su Fong needed to do was to hide in the dark and wait quietly. After 10 years, I've only comprehended about 1% of the profound meaning contained in the characters on the screen. It's really too vast. But this 1% is already a great harvest. Su Fong began to secretly activate the world tree in his yang meridian, and the power of the yin-yang world surged out. Then, he used the power of the world tree to absorb and control the aura around him. The aura in the divine prison of heaven's law contained the ice-cold power of heavenly Tao order, as well as some other complex energies. Once it was absorbed into the body, it would bind the flesh and meridians, preventing the circulation of divine vitality. It would also be difficult to use dermic powers. Currently, he was using the power of the world tree to absorb the power of the divine prison of heaven's law. After purification, the remaining 1/3 of the pure power of heavenly Tao order was absorbed into the Tao palace of heaven and earth for him to cultivate at all times. Moreover, his ability to communicate and control the power of heavenly Tao order was nearly 10 times better than before. Su Fong estimated that he could directly kill middle-rank lords in the divine prison of heaven's law. Even if I leave the divine prison of heaven's law and am in the outside world, I can still control the power of heavenly Tao order. Combined with other techniques, I can defeat or even kill middle-rank lords. Su Fong was overjoyed. He had obtained so many treasures, especially the rainbow stone lotus. His abilities had also improved tremendously. How could he not be overjoyed? Su Fong absorbed the aura around him, and at the same time devoured pills and spiritual items. His recovery speed increased slightly. Only then did he begin to strip off his yang spirit and fresh blood to fuse with the god-slaying saber he had obtained in the beheading punishment hall. The god-slaying saber was a butcher's saber as well as a tool of torture. After Su Fong's power of yin and yang contained the power of heavenly Tao order, in addition to the purple cloud Dharma spirit, the fusion of the god-slaying saber became very smooth. Another 5 years passed. The cultivators who had gone to the side halls to search for treasures returned to the main hall one after another. Some returned with a bountiful haul, while others returned empty-handed. There was also a considerable number of people who had disappeared forever in the various punishment halls. You despicable, shameless ant. You're deliberately fanning the flames, but you're hiding here and doing whatever you want. Die. The hunchback powerhouse from Sanskrit arrived in front of the main hall. His aura was weak and listless. His divine light swept across the area, and when he saw Su Fong, he was instantly enraged. He let out a furious roar, attracting everyone's attention. It turned out that the hunchback powerhouse from Sanskrit had competed with the G people's second patriarch for a token. In the end, he was not as strong as the G people's second patriarch and lost in the end. Then, he entered the various punishment halls to search for a token. Unexpectedly, he triggered a restriction in one of the punishment halls and almost lost his life. He was filled with anger and had nowhere to vent it. Naturally, he hated Su Fong to the core. Die! The hunchbacked powerhouse grabbed at the air, and a destructive heavenly Tao divine power enveloped Su Fong's surroundings. The illusory divine power quickly transformed into a world that was only 1,000 feet in size. Then, the heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. It was about to collapse along with Su Fong's world. Who is this person? He looks unfamiliar. How did he offend a powerhouse from Sanskrit? He's only at the Tao integration stage, but he offended a supreme chief god. He really doesn't know what's good for him. Everyone discussed spiritedly as they watched this scene indifferently. Here, the hunchback powerhouse could only display the strength of a peak Tao integration stage cultivator. Even so, it was still shocking. However, Su Fang's strength was only at the third firmament of the Tao integration stage. In everyone's opinion, Su Fang would be crushed into powder in an instant. The Ji people's second patriarch looked at him coldly. This person has guts. He dares to use a token to sow discord between me and a Sanskrit powerhouse. He deserves to die. Boom! The divine power of the world erupted from Su Fang's body. It merged with the aura around him and instantly formed a defense around him. The hunchback powerhouse's attack seemed to have landed on the divine prison of heaven's law. Immediately, it shattered layer by layer. It was unable to shake Su Fang's defense at all. Everyone who saw this scene instantly went into an uproar, and they were extremely surprised and shocked. Even the Lord God powerhouses, the great elder of Primordius Heavenly Palace's Punishment Hall, the Buddhist cultivator Good Fortune Buddha, the powerhouses of the Yi clan, as well as the other geniuses of Primordius Heavenly Palace like Di Yuan and Il Woyang. All of them revealed looks of surprise as they sized up Su Fang once more. "You're the one who deserves to die," Su Fang said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, the divine power of the world was projected again. Along with the divine power of the world, he instantly moved in front of the hunchback powerhouse from Sanskrit and punched out. Su Fang didn't use any magical power in this punch. Instead, he activated the power of the divine prison of heaven's law. A vast power surged and swept out, sending the hunchback powerhouse from Sanskrit flying. Boom! A defensive divine weapon that looked like a tortoise shell quickly appeared from the hunchback powerhouse's body, forming a powerful protective divine power. From the side, he looked like a tortoise that had been hit by a flood. He was thrown high into the air and crashed into the wall of the front hall. Then he bounced back heavily and fell to the ground in a sorry state. Puff! A stream of blood that contained internal organs spurted out from the hunchback powerhouse's mouth. Although the tortoise shell had blocked Su Fang's attack, his internal organs had been shaken, and he was in a severely injured state. However, he was lucky to survive. The front of the main hall fell silent. Everyone felt that the hunchback powerhouse had kicked an extremely hard iron plate. The iron plate was fine, but he had broken his leg. Chapter 2297. The hunchbacked expert was not the only one who was shocked. The Sanji people's second forefather was also shocked. Could this person be a peak lord-level expert in disguise? Or did he obtain the real treasure in that side hall? Luo Xingtian carefully sized up Su Fang, his eyes filled with doubt. This person is somewhat similar to Mr. Zhuolang. He can control the power of the divine prison of law, but he's more than 10 times stronger than Mr. Zhuolang. Where did he come from? You snatched my treasure, but now you want to kill me. You've gone too far. Su Fang was like a god of death. With a domineering shout, he charged toward the Sanskrit old man again. How arrogant. Do you think I'm afraid of a Tao integration stage, ant like you? Divine bell of annihilation die. The hunchbacked expert from Sanskrit gritted his teeth and spat out a green xianguang. It quickly condensed into a large bronze bell, which appeared above Su Fang's head. The large bronze bell was about 3 meters tall, but it exuded an ancient aura. It was a pseudo-creation divine weapon. After being activated by the hunchbacked expert, it seemed to have merged with heaven and earth. Although it was restrained by the divine prison of law, it still unleashed an extremely powerful force. Clang! Along with the dull sound of a bell, a divine might broke through the surrounding shackles and enveloped Su Fang. In an instant, the sound of the bell was like the sound of the end of the world. When the bell rang, it revealed a scene of heaven and earth collapsing. The sky shattered and the earth collapsed. A terrifying destructive might of the heavenly Tao swept towards Su Fang. The large bronze bell was connected to the hunchbacked old man's flesh and blood. It was a life-divine weapon. Otherwise, he would not have been able to activate the pseudo-creation divine weapon in his current state. Although it was restrained by the divine prison of law, the divine bell of annihilation could still unleash a terrifying attack comparable to that of an intermediate lord. If it was used in the divine world, it could probably unleash an earth-shattering force comparable to that of an upper lord. Break! Su Fong stared at the large bronze bell. His eyes were solemn as he grabbed the god-slaying saber. It was as if the Milky Way was flowing backward. The white saber radiance rose against the heavens, setting off a monstrous, killing aura. At this moment, everyone saw the horrifying illusion of thousands of heads falling to the ground, mountains of corpses and seas of blood surging. What was even more shocking was that this saber light had even drawn upon the power of the divine prison of heaven's law. Its power was far beyond that of an ordinary half-created divine artifact. Chi, the apocalyptic divine bell's apocalyptic divine might was torn apart by the god-slaying saber. The blade light struck the bell, creating a loud noise that shook the entire divine prison of heaven's law. The weaker Tao integration stage cultivators were bleeding from their ears, and their eyes were also wounded by the saber auras. Terrifying illusions of slaughter even appeared in their minds. A deep cut appeared on the Armageddon divine bell, surrounded by cracks like a spider web. It let out a trembling sound and flew back into the body of the hunchbacked expert from Sanskrit. His natal artifact was also injured. The hunchbacked Sanskrit old man spat out another mouthful of blood. His aura rapidly weakened, and his face seemed to have aged 30 years. The power of the god-slaying saber in the divine prison of heaven's law is astonishing. Su Fong was also shocked by the power of the god-slaying saber. If you want to kill me, Su Fong, you should be prepared to be killed by me. Then, Su Fong activated the god-slaying saber and was about to kill the hunchbacked old man. Whoosh! Luo Yunshun, the grand elder of the Luo clan, flashed in front of the hunchbacked expert and said coldly, "Forgive people whenever possible. Don't go too far." Swoosh! Swoosh! The grand elder of the Yuan Tiangong Punishment Hall, the expert from the Yi clan, and the second patriarch of the Ji people, a total of 4 overgods, blocked Su Fong. An aura erupted from the expert from the Yi clan, condensing into arrows that swept towards Su Fong like a wave of sharp arrows. Slash! Su Fong's eyes flashed with a fierce light. He activated the god-slaying saber again, and the vast divine power of the divine weapon spread out. The saber radiance, with a monstrous killing aura, split the wave of arrows and shattered the surrounding arrows layer by layer. The saber radiance was also exhausted by the sharp arrows. Su Fong projected the divine power of the world and merged it with the aura of the divine prison of heaven's law. He instantly moved 1,000 feet away. Then he staggered, and a stream of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. The expert from the Yi clan was a pinnacle over God. If not for the suppression of the divine prison of heaven's law, Su Fong would definitely not be his match. Although he had neutralized the attack, Su Fong was still affected. A sharp and domineering power drilled into his body and injured his internal organs. Fortunately, Su Fong had the power of the Great Perfection stage and abundant Yang Qi. Otherwise, the power of a pinnacle overgod would have been enough to kill a pinnacle Tao integration pinnacle expert. The expert from the Yi clan was surprised. He was also a little afraid of Su Fong's strength. He did not want to provoke such a strong enemy for the sake of the hunchbacked expert from Sanskrit. The hunchbacked expert from Sanskrit was lucky to survive. He immediately heaved a long sigh of relief. Naturally, he hated and feared Su Fong. Su Fong looked at the second forefather of the Ji people and shouted domineeringly, "Return the token to me. Otherwise, you will end up like that hunchbacked old man." The second forefather of the Ji people flew into a rage. A mere Tao integration realm cultivator is just a lowly existence like an ant in my eyes. How dare you be so arrogant? The token is in my hands. Come and get it if you dare. Su Fong sneered disdainfully. You have so many overgods, and none of you are ordinary overgods. How dare you look down on a mere Tao integration realm cultivator like me? Do you dare to fight me one-on-one? The second forefather of the G people glanced at the hunchbacked old man. He was also a little afraid of Su Fong. If they were outside, he could kill a Tao Integration Realm cultivator with just a thought. However, they were in the divine prison of law, and Su Fong clearly had the ability to control the power of the divine prison of law. It was hard to predict who would win if they fought here. At this moment, the great elder of the Luo clan, Luo Yunshan, shouted, "Everyone listen to me." Everyone looked at Luo Yunshan. Luo Yunshan said, "Everyone is fighting to enter the main hall of the divine prison of law. Am I right?" A rogue cultivator mocked. Luo Xingtian was the first to pass the divine prison of law. He has already obtained the treasure to enter the main hall. Is the Luo clan willing to share the treasure with us? Most of the cultivators who did not get the token snorted disdainfully. QL11 Luo Yunshan chuckled. "That's right. I have the same intention." Everyone was shocked and astonished. Only Su Fong knew that the Luo clan was plotting something. He sneered in his heart. "Luo Xingtian, the genius of my clan, has indeed obtained the supreme treasure to enter the main hall. He can even help everyone enter the main hall. However, the main hall is really dangerous. Luo Xingtian can only obtain a limited amount of treasure if he enters the main hall alone. He might even lose his life. Therefore, I've decided to enter the main hall with everyone, including the overgods." Luo Yunshan said tirelessly. "The Luo clan is so kind." Everyone was doubtful. Luo Yunshan laughed loudly. "Of course, I won't be a good person for nothing. I want 10% of the treasures obtained in the main hall with the help of the Luo clan. What do you think?" Everyone fell silent. The Luo clan's conditions were definitely not harsh. Everyone could accept it. Su Fong sneered in his heart. The Luo clan is really greedy. Of course, the Luo clan's appetite was not limited to 10% of the treasures mentioned by Luo Yunshan. It was much bigger than that. Before entering the side hall of the Divine Law Prison, Su Fong already knew that Luo Xingtian had a special ability. He could use the prison general's token to control the cultivators who had the prison guard's token. Su Fong speculated that the Luo clan must want to use this advantage to take all the treasures in the main hall for themselves. The punishment hall, Grand Elder questioned. Luo Xingtian is only in the ultimate god realm. He's not even in the path integration realm. No matter how powerful the treasures are, how can they help so many cultivators enter the main hall? Luo Xingtian walked out and cupped his fists. "Although I'm weak, I have the bloodline of the Luo clan. I can guarantee that everyone can enter the main hall safely." Then he took out the prison-suppressing divine brush and golden paper. With blood as ink, he waved the brush and wrote an imperial edict. This imperial edict, written with a prison-suppressing divine brush, can release a protective divine aura. It will prevent the main hall's restriction from forming a shackle on everyone. Who wants to give it a try? Luo Xingtian looked at everyone and shouted. There was a moment of silence. Il Woyang broke the silence. "I'm willing to give it a try." The peak over god from the Yi clan raised his eyebrows, but didn't say anything to stop him. "Thank you, Brother Luoyang." Luo Xingtian was overjoyed. "Brother Luoyang, you only need to infuse your essence blood, primordial spirit, and divine yuan into the imperial edict and absorb it into your body. It will naturally release a protective divine aura that will prevent Brother Luoyang from being shackled in the main hall." Il Woyang injected a drop of essence blood into the imperial edict. The essence blood also contained his primordial spirit, consciousness, and power. The imperial edict was like a sponge that quickly absorbed Il Woyang's essence blood. Then, it turned into a string of mysterious Tao runes that entered his divine aperture from between his eyebrows. Il Woyang strode to the entrance of the hall. The cultivators guarding the entrance all stepped aside to make a path for him. Under everyone's gaze, Il Woyang approached the entrance of the hall. A cold, heavenly Tao order energy was released from the entrance of the hall and swept over Il Woyang's body. Buzz, golden Tao runes flew out of Il Woyang's divine aperture and circled around him. The aura it released formed a protective divine aura that enveloped him. Rumble. The heavy entrance of the hall slowly opened. Swish, swish, swish. Everyone looked towards the depths of the main hall. However, all they saw was a silent and cold world of nothingness. They couldn't sense anything. I'll go first. Perhaps I'll be able to obtain a supreme treasure first. Ha ha! Luoyang strode through the entrance of the hall. After a few steps, he vanished into the world of nothingness. Swish, swish, swish. Chapter 2298. When the cultivators at the back saw that the 5 of them were taking the opportunity to sneak into the main palace, there was an uproar. Some of them also rushed toward the main palace like a flock of ducks. Suddenly, streaks of black lightning flashed out from the void and intertwined to form a lightning net that enveloped the 5 cultivators. Chi, chi, chi. The 5 powerful cultivators instantly turned into 5 streaks of black smoke. Even the peak 9th Heaven Tao integration expert, who was only 1 step away from becoming a master god, was turned into ashes before he could even let out a scream. The cultivators who rushed toward the main palace were all scared out of their wits. They quickly turned around and left the main palace. Hiss! Outside the main hall, the sound of people sucking in cold air could be heard. Everyone looked into the deep and serene hall, and every one of them was trembling. Young Master Luo, please give me an imperial edict. I will forever remember the Luo clan's kindness. A middle-aged man from an unknown force cupped his fists and begged Luo Xingtian, if there's a treasure, please take it. I won't refuse anyone. Luo Xingtian waved his brush and wrote an imperial edict, which he sent to the middle-aged man. The man quickly fused with the imperial edict and walked into the main palace. With the protection of the imperial edict's divine power, he was indeed unharmed. Hence, many cultivators began to speak, including the Yuan Tiangong geniuses. Other than Di Yuan, all of them received Luo Xingtian's imperial edict and entered the main palace. I was lucky enough to obtain a palace master token. Young Master Luo, you don't have to trouble yourself. The Ji people's second forefather took out the token he received from Su Fong. After activating it, it released a protective divine power and entered the main palace calmly. The other experts who had obtained the tokens also used the tokens to enter the inner space of the main hall. There were not many people, only a dozen or so. Moreover, each of them was a powerful expert. Other than the Ji people's second forefather, there was also the Buddhist expert from the Pure Land of the Far West, Buddha Zaiwa. As for Di Yuan, he activated the golden voucher. When he entered the main palace did not attack him. Di Yuan's trick might affect the plan. Luo Xingtian secretly transmitted his principal spirit to Luo Yunshin. Luo Yunshin snorted. It doesn't matter. As for those that didn't have a token, they could only obediently go to Luo Xingtian to obtain an edict. Finally, even Primordius Heavenly Palace's punishment elder had to obtain an edict from Luo Xingtian before entering the main hall. Luo Xingtian had consumed a lot of blood qi. His face gradually turned pale, and his aura gradually weakened. The cultivators who entered the main hall with the help of the imperial edict were very grateful to Luo Xingtian. Days passed. 10 days later, there were only about 100 cultivators left outside the main hall. None of these cultivators who dared to enter the divine prison of law were fools. No matter how good the treasure was, one had to be alive to take it. These cultivators who stayed outside were more or less wary of the Luo clan and were hesitant. Everyone, if you continue to hesitate, this young master will enter the main hall. At that time, you won't even be able to get the soup. Luo Xingtian didn't give these people any face and kept urging them. Su Fong flew across the sky towards the palace gate. Luo Xingtian raised the corner of his mouth with a touch of sarcasm. You also want to enter the main hall of the divine prison of law? Su Fong said indifferently. Yes, I came to the divine prison of law for the treasures inside. How can I not enter the main hall? Luo Xingtian snorted. This young master hates lowly cultivators like you who think you have a little strength and are arrogant to the point of not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. Although Sanskrit is not as good as my Luo clan, It is also one of the top ancient divine clans in the ancient god world. How can an ant like you recklessly provoke it? What do you want? Su Fong asked coldly with a trace of sarcasm. Luo Xingtian's eyes flashed with a domineering luster. It's very simple. Kneel down and beg me. This young master will give you an edict, which is equivalent to giving you a chance to get good fortune. Su Fong sneered mercilessly. You speak as if you were the master of the divine prison of law. Without you, do you think I can't enter the main hall? Luo Xingtian sneered. If you want to die, you can try. Without you, Luo Xingtian, I can still enter the main hall calmly. Su Fong smiled lightly and stepped toward the door. You don't know what's good for you. Luo Xingtian snorted and looked at Su Fong's back as if he was looking at a dead man walking toward hell. Su Fong came to the door of the main hall and secretly chanted the essence of the heavenly way order on the screen with his primordial spirit. At the same time, he activated the power of order in his body and reached out to push the door. Crack! Crack! The door slowly opened. You open the door? Humph! The next moment will be your death date. Luo Xingtian was surprised and then sneered. Unexpectedly, Su Fong walked into the main hall step by step. The terrifying restriction that could kill any master god and even threaten venerable sovereigns did not move at all. This person is unbelievable. Luo Xingtian stared in shock at the place where Su Fong disappeared. His eyes were full of disbelief. Luo Yunshin's primordial spirit voice was full of murderous intent. After entering the main hall, be careful of this person. If there is a chance, kill him directly. I feel a sense of danger from this person. He must be killed. Luo Xingtian responded with a murderous aura. Su Fong stepped into the main hall and seemed to enter another world. First of all, the astonishing shackles in the divine prison of heaven's law had suddenly increased by more than 10 times. They were all filled with the eerie power of the heavenly Tao. Even a master god could only unleash the power of an ordinary Tao integration stage cultivator in this place. He felt as if he had entered a gigantic cage, and the invisible power of order was suppressing him, making it hard for him to breathe. Su Fong operated the power of the world of yin and yang. Because the power of the world of yin and yang contained the power of the heavenly way order, he immediately broke free from the shackles. Although he did not feel like a fish in water, he at least reached a normal state. He took a closer look. This was an extremely spacious main hall. Many cold, dark golden stone pillars supported the huge dome, as if supporting a part of the universe. Even with Su Fong's perfect eyesight, he couldn't see the end of the main hall to his left and right. To be precise, spatial distance had lost its meaning in this main hall. The inner world of the main hall could extend infinitely, and it could also shrink to the smallest size. In Su Fong's sight, fist-sized gems were embedded on the dark golden stone pillars, which were like pillars supporting the sky. They emitted a cold but bright brilliance. Upon closer inspection, he realized that they were not gems, but stars that had been compressed into the size of fist by a great divine ability. They were used as tools for illumination and were embedded on the stone pillars. Each stone pillar was embedded with a galaxy. Disregarding everything else, just these gems alone were extraordinary treasures. Su Fong saw that many of the cultivators who had entered the main hall were frantically digging for the gems. There were also some who were activating their divine weapons and madly attacking the ground. Su Fong then noticed that the stone bricks on the ground were also polished from raw stones and then paved on the ground. Each piece was very valuable. It was no wonder that these cultivators were frantically fighting for them. Su Fong continued to fly towards the depths of the main hall. Along the way, he saw cultivators frantically fighting for treasures. From the star gems on the stone pillars to the stone bricks on the ground, as well as the various divine objects used for lighting and decoration floating in the air. These cultivators did not let go of any of them. Due to the heavy shackles, these cultivators had to consume an astonishing amount of divine essence every time they obtained a treasure. However, these people did not tire of it. Su Fong kept flying forward. After about 3 days, he finally arrived at the depths of the main hall. The shackles of the heavenly Tao order here had become even more terrifying. The cold power of order that had settled down had almost taken physical form, solidifying together to form layers of formations that covered the depths of the main hall. The layers of formations formed layers of powerful restrictions that were stacked together. It was very difficult to break through each layer of restrictions. In the depths of these layers of restrictions, the most important treasures of the divine prison of heaven's law must be stored. Su Fong used his perfected ability and coupled with the heavenly secret life shrinking technique, he sensed that there was a towering heavenly altar in the depths of the restrictions. He also discovered that there was an aura on the heavenly altar that was similar to the mysterious tadpole text on the screen. In fact, it was countless times more majestic than the latter. That aura should be the prison suppression codex, but I can't sense the aura of the heavenly supervisor token. Su Fong thought to himself. Looking at the layers of restrictions again, Su Fong frowned. He could clearly see the heavenly scars formed by the power of heavenly way order. They interweaved into shocking seals, forming a defense that was like a canopy. It would be extremely difficult to enter and obtain the prison suppressing codex. Boom, boom. The cultivators who had entered the main palace first, including the peerless overgods who were part of the Yuan Tiangong Punishment Hall's Grand Elder, as well as the E-Clan's experts, the Buddha of Creation, the G People's second patriarch, and others, were attacking the restrictions. If these peerless overgods were in nature, they could destroy a major world with a raise of their hand. Their divine might could even seal a stellar region. However, in the main palace, it felt like they were all godly, venerable cultivators whose cultivation bases were severely suppressed. So many overgods joined forces and attacked for so long, but they could not even break through the first layer of restrictions. However, Su Fong could also tell that they were not using their full strength. They were obviously holding back. Breaking the restrictions was the first step. When the prison suppression codex appeared, there would definitely be an earth-shattering battle. Of course, they had to conserve their strength. The three Yuan Tiangong geniuses, Di Yuan, Il Woyang, and Qian Gang, were watching from afar. They did not search for treasures like the other cultivators. The three of them were not surprised to see Su Fong. Instead, they were more vigilant. It's obviously not that easy to obtain the prison suppression codex. Moreover, there's Luo Xingtian who has ulterior motives. I'll find a place to hide first. When they break the restrictions, I'll find an opportunity to obtain the prison suppression codex. Chapter 2299. Seeing Su Fong retreat, Di Yuan and the other geniuses, as well as the overgods, no longer paid any attention to him. They focused their attention on the layers of restrictions. Not only was the prison suppressing codex on the heavenly altar deep within the restrictions, but the best treasures of the divine prison of heaven's law would definitely be gathered there. Even emperors would be tempted by these treasures, let alone them. They naturally would not place their attention on an unrelated person like Su Fong. Su Fong flew out of the overgod's range of perception. He was not very far from the deepest part of the main hall. Due to the restrictions in the main hall, a peak over God's perception would not extend beyond 5,000 kilometers. Su Fong possessed the power of great perfection. Most importantly, he could borrow the power of heavenly Tao's order to possess the normal perception of a Tao integration expert. He could sense the depths of the main hall. Such an ability was even more powerful than the peak over God's. Su Fong used his power of great perfection to sense where he could hide. The cultivators who had entered the main hall were digging 3 feet into the ground in search of treasures. They did not even spare the stone bricks on the ground. Where could they find a place to hide without being discovered? Su Fong's eyes immediately lit up when he looked up at the huge oil lamp floating 10,000 feet high in the sky. There were shocking restrictions in the main hall. The higher one went, the more shocking the restrictions were. If the Tao integration cultivators did not have the edict written by Luo Xingtian using the prison-suppressing codex, they would find it difficult to even walk. They would not even be able to obtain the oil lamp. That's where I'm hiding. Su Fong used the power of heavenly Tao's order to control the surrounding aura. With a flash, he appeared around the oil lamp. It was no longer an oil lamp, but a terrifying fire pool that spanned 1,000 feet. What burned inside was no ordinary flame, but terrifying heavenly fire. It was much more terrifying than the heavenly fire controlled by Heavenly Fire Divine Lord. Heavenly Fire Divine Lord had cultivated by fusing heavenly fire, but the heavenly fire in the fire pool was born from the heavenly Tao's origins. It contained the pure power of heavenly tribulation. It was not something a over-god like Heavenly Fire Divine Lord could compare to. However, although the heavenly fire in the fire pool was shocking, it was perfect for Su Fong to hide. By using the illusory fire cloud and the power of Heavenly Tao's order, the flames seeped out from Su Fong's skin, rapidly turning into a burning cloud of fire. The power of the flames was truly shocking. Then, with a whoosh, the fire cloud of the fire cloud, heavenly fire quickly penetrating into the interior of the fire. Because the fire cloud that Su Fong had turned into had merged with the power of Heavenly Tao order, the heavenly fire did not attack Su Fong. However, the power of the heavenly fire in the pool of fire was shocking. It made Su Fong lose a lot of energy. While the overgod of the heavens, the death of the codex, a lot of Kokodex, much attention of the Ovras, a heavenly god mind. Attention, a Ovra. The god-slaying saber was not only a half-created divine artifact, but also a tool of torture. Together with the heavenly fire in the fire pool, it had the aura of the divine prison of heaven's punishment. Using it as the eye of the formation perfectly blocked the heavenly fire in the fire pool. He sat cross-legged in the middle of the formation. Su Fong wiped the sweat off his forehead. This time, he had used up a lot of his strength. Even the moment he condensed his body had been burned. Fortunately, his injuries weren't serious, and he could recover quickly. First, he used the life-shrinking technique rune to set up around him. After crushing it, the power to conceal fate merged with the formation. In this way, even if Luo Xingtian controlled the entire main hall, he would not be able to discover his existence. Using the power of great perfection and the power of Heavenly Tao's order to sense the depths of the main hall, he could clearly sense every movement there. I'll let them break the restriction slowly. At the same time, I'll see what Luo Xingtian is up to. It won't be too late to make a move when he gets the prison-suppressing codex. Su Fong made up his mind to stay out of the matter. He calmed down, like a hunter waiting for his prey to appear. He was more like an oriole hiding behind a mantis. Su Fong did not stay idle. He formed a seal inside the formation, turning into the azure blood dome. He began to devour elixirs and spiritual objects to cultivate. Then, he condensed his original body in the blood water and began to comprehend the tadpole runes on the screen, comprehending the essence of the supreme heavenly Tao's order. The more he comprehended, the stronger he would be in the divine prison of law. It would also be easier to fuse with the rainbow stone lotus. Outside the main hall, there were more than 50 cultivators left. They were hesitating whether to enter the main hall or not. Luo Xingtian appeared to be a little impatient. Are you going in or not? Make a decision quickly. My patience is limited. A bearded cultivator said decisively. There are so many supreme gods in the main hall. What do we gain if we go in? Thank you for your kindness, young Master Luo. I won't be entering the main hall. With that, the cultivator turned around and flew toward the divine prison of law without hesitation. He was actually planning to leave. I came in with brother, you can't go through the maze square alone. I'll go out with you. Following that, 3 other cultivators followed the bearded cultivator. These people were not simple. If they could gain something, they would definitely kill decisively and use thunder and thunder to get everything. If they couldn't get anything, they would immediately give up after weighing the pros and cons. Although this kind of person's strength was ordinary, they often lived longer than some of the experts. They were not like the cultivators who entered the main hall who lost their Tao hearts and were led by the nose by the treasures. After 4 experts left, the remaining cultivators began to waver. Since you don't want to go in, then stay here. Luo Yunshun said majestically. Flames were burning in his eyes like two burning stars. Then he rolled out an imperial edict written by Luo Xingtian with a prison-suppressing divine brush. The mysterious Tao characters on it were 100 times more complicated than those written for other cultivators. The imperial edict released a heavenly Tao order power. At the same time, a burning aura swept out from Luo Yunshun's body, enveloping all the cultivators outside. Grand Elder Luo, what do you mean by this? The cultivator's divine light changed instantly. If you enter the main hall, I might take you as my slaves and give you a great fortune. However, you don't want the fortune and are courting death. Luo Yunshun's cold voice was filled with killing intent. The next moment, QL11, his aura quickly condensed, forming a real world. Burning stars descended from the void, bringing with them a terrifying aura of destruction, engulfing the 50 or so experts. It was a pity that these 50 or so people were all at the Tao integration realm. Moreover, those who were able to enter this place were all powerful experts. The weakest of them was a realm lord of a great realm. There were also some godly lords and heavenly lords from other star domains. However, under Luo Yunshun's divine power, these Tao integration realm experts could not resist at all. They were killed in an instant and turned into dust under the impact of the falling stars. Luo Xingtian was also shocked by Luo Yunshun's ruthlessness. He asked, Grand Elder, didn't you say that you won't kill unless it's the last moment? They're just a bunch of ants. They're not over-gods or geniuses for big forces. It doesn't matter if I kill them. The treasures in the Divine Law Prison are related to the rise and fall of the Luo clan. There can't be any mistakes. I have to be careful. Let's go. Luo Yunshun said casually. Then, he entered the main hall. Luo Xingtian glanced at the ashes in front of the main hall and smiled coldly. He followed Luo Yunshun into the main hall. As soon as they entered the main hall, the door slammed shut and completely isolated them from the outside world. It was like a huge cage. They arrived at the inner world of the main hall. Luo Xingtian used the prison-suppressing divine brush to sense every corner of the main hall. He found that many cultivators were crazily digging for treasures. Even the overgods were attacking the restrictions. Luo Xingtian smiled coldly. These idiots, no matter how many treasures you find, they'll all belong to the Luo clan in the end. Luo Xingtian could not sense the existence of Su Fang. He could not help but be surprised. Strange. Where did that middle-aged man go? Luo Yunshun was also surprised. This person is mysterious. We have to be careful. Luo Xingtian said confidently, It's okay. The entire main hall is under my control. As long as he's in the main hall, he can't escape from me. They quickly came to the depths of the main hall. Luo Yunshun raised his eyebrows when he saw that the overgods were not attacking the barriers with all their might. He shouted, At this speed, you won't be able to get the treasures inside the barriers, even if you attack for 10,000 years. Why don't we discuss this? The overgods stopped attacking. The first elder of the punishment hall, the E-clan expert, the second patriarch of the G people, the Buddha of fortune from the pure land of the far west, and Chu Bingyin's master, the mysterious black-robed old man. These overgods gathered together. After a discussion, they finally reached an agreement. A total of 7 overgods worked together to break through the barriers outside the Temple of Heaven. After entering the Temple of Heaven, all the treasures they obtained would be distributed according to the agreed-upon distribution. According to the agreement, no matter how many treasures there were in the Temple of Heaven, the Luo clan would not only get 2 levels, but also the right to choose first. The other overgods would be distributed according to their strength. As for Di Yuan and the other geniuses of the younger generation, they were excluded. Even the heavily injured hunchbacked expert from Sanskrit did not have the right to get a share of the treasures. However, due to Di Yuan's identity, the overgods agreed to give him half of the treasures they obtained in the end. Half of the treasures? Seniors, you're really giving me face, Di Yuan said expressionlessly. Di Yuan spoke with an expressionless face, and then he directly left to search for treasures in other places in the main hall. The hunchbacked expert from Sanskrit and the other geniuses also left helplessly. No matter how good the treasures inside the barriers were, they would not have a chance to get them. They might as well go to other places. They might be able to find treasures there. Everyone, let's not hold back anymore. Let's try to break through all the barriers within 100 years. Luo Yinshun shouted coldly. He unleashed his full strength and attacked the barriers. Chapter 2300. Time passed day by day. Su Fong hid in the huge fire pool and was immersed in comprehending and cultivating. He comprehended the mysterious tadpole-like characters on the screen bit by bit. Then, like a rolling snowball, as he comprehended more and more mysteries, his speed of comprehension also became faster and faster. Outside the main palace, he had only comprehended 1% of the characters. Now, after only 10 years, he had comprehended 5% of the characters. After further integration, his speed of comprehension became even faster. From 5%, it quickly reached 10%, then 30%, then 50%. Su Fong also paid a huge price. Obtaining fortuitous encounters and good fortune was luck. However, it wasn't easy to transform these fortuitous encounters and fortunes into one's own strength. It required a firm and unyielding will and Tao heart. The tadpole-like characters on the screen contained the rules and essence of the supreme heavenly Tao order. A mere Tao integration cultivator was not qualified to comprehend them. Even a peerless master god could only comprehend bits and pieces of them at most. Su Fong was so extraordinary. He cultivated the supreme heavenly Tao and formed a small world in his body. He also had the chaos divine lattice that could accommodate all great Taos. Therefore, he was qualified to comprehend the most profound mysteries of the heavenly Tao in the universe. However, it was still extremely difficult to comprehend these tadpole-like characters. From the power of life to the power of the primordial spirit and the power of the yin-yang world, all of them suffered a huge consumption. Su Fong had an amazing recovery ability. The surging blood water around his body and the blood dome above his head were constantly transforming the elixirs, spirit items, and blood crystals that he had swallowed into life, blood, and energy to continuously recover. Fortunately, he had such an ability. In addition, he had swallowed the plant spirit treasure that the divine dragon had transformed into, which greatly increased the power of his dragon-subduing true body. Otherwise, he would not have been able to last for more than a few days. This consumption was not only shocking, but also very terrifying. Which god would dare to watch his life and everything else slip away from his body at a rapid speed? This required an extremely strong Tao heart and incomparably tenacious will. In the depths of his inner world, when the Golden Rainbow King's world spirit saw Su Fong's every move, it was also endlessly shocked. Back then, not only was I vicious and merciless, but I was also extremely scheming and lucky. Moreover, I obtained the divine creation artifact, the sun-penetrating golden rainbow. That was why I was able to roam freely in the universe and even dared to challenge the celestial worthy mountain. However, compared to this brat, this seat is still lacking greatly. If a cultivator wants to reach the peak, they have to step on mountains of corpses and seas of blood. How can they not be ruthless? And this brat, not only is he ruthless to his enemies, he is also ruthless to himself. Such a tenacious Tao heart. I am not as good as him, and those so-called geniuses of Yuan Tiangong are far from him. Moreover, this kid's cunning is truly terrifying. While the over-gods are busy fighting for the treasures, he stays out of it. However, this is also based on his strength. If he didn't have extraordinary abilities, how could he stay out of this dangerous main hall of the divine prison of heaven's law? It's a pity that I can't accept him as my disciple. His current strength has even surpassed this seat in the past. How can I accept him as my disciple? This will be the biggest regret of this seat's life. I also hope that he can rise quickly. Perhaps he can really invite an Emperor Realm expert to help me reconstruct my physical body. He might even bring this seat to transcend the shackles of this world and go to the outer world to have a look. The Golden Rainbow King was filled with emotions. He was no longer stingy with the treasures in his treasury. He took the initiative to take them out and gave them to Su Fong to cultivate. Boom, boom, boom. Violent tremors constantly came from the depths of the main hall, causing the entire main hall to tremble slightly. Those peerless overgods unleashed their powerful strength and bombarded the barrier continuously. Finally, they made great progress. After about 10 years, the peerless overgods finally broke through the first layer of the barrier. At this moment, even if one did not use any divine ability to sense it, they could still faintly see the incomparably huge temple of heaven. They could even sense the aura of the prison-suppressing codex on the temple of heaven. There were also many treasures emitting the aura of treasures and divine light. A total of 7 peerless overgods looked at the temple of heaven with unparalleled passion in their eyes, as well as greed that could not be concealed no matter how hard they tried. The precious treasures were right in front of them. Who could resist the temptation? The treasures on the temple of heaven came from the legendary exalted celestial mountain. Not to mention these overgods, even peerless emperors were greatly tempted, let alone them. However, these overgod powerhouses all paid a hefty price. In the divine prison of heaven's law, their strength was suppressed. Coupled with the astonishing defense of the barrier, one could imagine how great their consumption was. What was more serious was that the main hall was filled with the power of heavenly way order. They could not absorb the natural spiritual energy of heaven and earth, let alone absorb the power of heavenly way order. They had to constantly resist the shackles of the power of heavenly way order. They could only rely on pills and spiritual items to recover. These peerless overgods were all astonishingly wealthy. They did not lack all kinds of powerful pills and spiritual items. However, under such great consumption, the resources they needed to consume were equally astonishing. At this rate, it was obvious that they would not be able to break through all the barriers and enter the temple of heaven within 100 years. In the end, these peerless overgods had no choice but to change their strategy. They began to attack the barrier in batches, while a portion of them recovered at the back. These overgod powerhouses were all cunning old foxes. Naturally, they would not use their true trump cards at this time. They had to be on guard against others at all times. Therefore, the atmosphere was unusually gloomy. There was even a hint of nervousness. Luo Xingtian did not hesitate to consume his blood and qi to write another edict to help the 7 peerless overgods resist the shackles of the main hall. Although the prison-suppressing divine brush was miraculous, Luo Xingtian's strength was naturally insufficient to activate its power. It was almost impossible for him to even activate the divine brush, let alone write an edict that would be useful to the peerless overgods. He was completely relying on the drop of blood essence from the Luo clan venerable emperor. After consuming it again and again, the drop of blood essence from the Luo clan venerable emperor was almost completely depleted. Luo Xingtian had helped those supreme master gods weaken quite a lot of their shackles, and the suppression on their strength had also lessened a little. They naturally praised Luo Xingtian endlessly, praising him as a supreme genius who had surpassed Su Fong and Di Yuan. In a remote corner of the main hall, more than a dozen path integration cultivators sat cross-legged in a circle. A hunchbacked, middle-aged man sat cross-legged in the center. This man was the hunchback powerhouse from Sanskrit. There were a total of 14 path integration cultivators around him. They were all Sanskrit experts who had entered the divine law prison with a hunchback powerhouse this time. These Sanskrit experts were currently sealed. They could not move at all. Their faces were filled with pain and despair. Under the ground where they sat cross-legged, a pattern formed by interweaving heavenly scars was drawn. Their blood, qi, cultivation, and primordial spirits flowed through the heavenly scars and rapidly flowed to the hunchback powerhouse from Sanskrit, where they were wantonly devoured. It turned out that the hunchback powerhouse from Sanskrit was using a special forbidden technique of Sanskrit to devour the lives and cultivation of his clansmen to recover from his injuries. You followed me into the divine law prison to obtain supreme treasures for my clan. Now that you have sacrificed yourselves for the clan, your deaths are worthy. Your family, wives, and children will be taken care of by the clan. You can die in peace." The hunchback powerhouse's voice seemed to have come from the depths of hell. It was so cold that it caused one's soul to tremble. Some of the Sanskrit experts closed their eyes and waited for death. Others looked at the hunchback powerhouse with rage. Their eyes were filled with hatred. The hunchbacked expert continued coldly and embarrassedly. "If you want to blame someone, blame that middle-aged cultivator of unknown origins. If he hadn't injured me, I would have joined the group of overgods already. I would definitely have a share of the treasures I obtained in the end. That's fine too. Once I recover and they break the seal, I will kill my way back and take all the treasures. How dare you disregard the supreme Sanskrit? I will make you all pay a heavy price." The hunchbacked elder looked into the depths of the main hall with a sinister smile. Sizzle. The lives and cultivation of the 14 Sanskrit experts were fading away. Meanwhile, the hunchbacked powerhouse from Sanskrit gradually broke free from his weakened state and rose to his peak state. On the right side of the main hall was a small ear hall. A middle-aged man in white sat cross-legged in a room inside the ear hall. He was the imperial people's overgod powerhouse. Di Yuan stood respectfully in front of the middle-aged man in white. The middle-aged man in white was only at the level of a lower overgod. Compared to the supreme overgods like the disciplinary hall's grand elder, he was not very powerful. Moreover, this person was very low-key. After entering the main hall, he disappeared without a trace. Di Yuan did not expect him to come to this main hall. The middle-aged man in white said majestically, "Di Yuan, the clan doesn't approve of your participation in the emergence of the divine prison of law this time. Even the supreme beings of our clan have hinted that the divine prison of law is not only fraught with danger, but it also involves the world's anomaly. Since you insist on coming, I have no choice but to follow you into the main hall to prevent any accidents from happening to you." Di Yuan asked in confusion, "Since it involves the secret of the world's anomaly, why don't you investigate it thoroughly? Who dares to speculate about the intentions of the supreme beings?" The middle-aged man in white snorted coldly. "The true danger lies in the temple of heaven. Do you still want to fight for the prison suppression codex?" Di Yuan said decisively, "I must have the prison suppression codex. Since you insist, I won't persuade you anymore. At this moment, the main hall is completely sealed. Without the prison suppression codex, no one can walk out of the main hall. I've created a formation in this ear hall that can send you out of the main hall in times of danger. Remember, regardless of success or failure, I can only protect you once," Di Yuan said proudly. "If I want to walk out of the main hall, I'll snatch the prison suppression codex from the hands of those overgods and walk out of the door openly. I won't run away from here." With that, Di Yuan turned around and walked out of the ear hall. About 500 years later, Su Fong, who was hiding in the fire pool above the main hall, suddenly opened his eyes in the formation. Chapter 23:01. It turned out that, after such a long period of comprehension, Su Fong had finally comprehended all the tadpole characters on the screen. This meant that he could communicate and control the power of order between heaven and earth, just like how he controlled the natural energy of heaven and earth. Not only was he no longer shackled in the divine prison of heaven's law, but he could also absorb the power of the heavenly Tao to cultivate. It was not much different from absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to cultivate. Moreover, the supreme heavenly Tao that he cultivated also contained the heavenly Tao order. His inner world also possessed order and rules. The cultivation of his inner world had reached a new level. He also had a strong feeling that he only needed to cultivate in seclusion once to easily fuse with the rainbow stone lotus and form the 72nd yang meridian, reaching the 8th transformation. Su Fong flipped his hand and took out the origin sacred mirror. He grabbed the rainbow stone lotus from the scarlet mirror and could not wait to fuse with it. Who knew that at this moment, An earth-shattering sound came from the depths of the main hall. The entire main hall shook, followed by the exclamations and cheers of the master gods. Su Fong hurriedly projected his great perfection sensing ability. He did not expect the layers of barriers outside the Temple of Heaven to be broken through by the master gods. Next will be a fight to the death. Fusing with the Rainbow Stone Lotus is definitely not something that can be completed in a short period of time. I can only put it aside for now and focus on obtaining the Prison Suppressing Codex and the Heaven Supervisor token. Su Fong put away the Rainbow Stone Lotus again and focused on the depths of the main hall. At the same time, he swallowed pills and spiritual items to recover, trying to adjust himself to peak condition before the fight for the treasures. In the depths of the main hall, the seven master gods, apart from the Luo clan's grand elder Luo Yunshin, had all lost their demeanor as master gods. They could not care less about their exhaustion and dispiritedness as they rushed to the Temple of Heaven. On the Temple of Heaven, it was about 10,000 feet in size. There were more than 10 treasure chests on the left. Although they did not know what was in the treasure chests, they were all supreme treasures. On the right side of the Temple of Heaven, there were balls of Xian Guang floating. Within the Xian Guang, there were all kinds of torture tools. They were all powerful, half-created divine artifacts. There were blood-stained guillotines, thorny whips, shackles, and even a huge oil pot. The instruments of torture were protected by a barrier. Due to the barrier, it was impossible to sense the presences of the instruments of torture. However, just a single glance at the instruments of torture within the Xian Guang was enough to make even over-gods shiver in fear. There was a tiny altar at the center of the heavenly altar. A 1-meter-long book hovered above the altar, causing all the chief gods to be unable to shift their gazes away. The book seemed to have been forged from black iron. It seemed extremely heavy and gave off a terrifying aura that could not be offended. Even supreme overgods like the Grand Elder of the Disciplinary Hall in Yuan Tiangong and the experts of the Yi clan trembled. They could not help but want to kneel down and worship it. Prison Suppressing Codex. It was not the prison suppressing codex of an ordinary prison, but the supreme divine artifact that controlled the heavenly god prison of the exalted celestial mountain. Or it could be said that the prison suppression codex was the divine prison of law. None of the overgods moved to steal the prison suppression codex, nor did any of them touch the treasures on the sides. Instead, they were all cautious as they retreated step by step to the edge of the Temple of Heaven. These supreme overgods were all old foxes who had weathered countless storms. They knew that the more important a treasure was, the more they needed to remain absolutely calm. Otherwise, they would not even know how they died. Everyone, we should discuss how to split these treasures, the Grand Elder of the Disciplinary Hall said sternly. The expert of the Yi clan called out loudly, I don't want the 10% of the treasures that should be mine. I only want the prison suppression codex. Yiling, the most important treasure in the entire divine prison of law is the prison suppression codex. You actually want to take it all for yourself. You have quite the appetite. It's just a pity that you can't take it all by yourself. The person who spoke was the mysterious expert in black robes. He was also Chu Bingyin Sr. This person's cultivation was truly astonishing. He had reached the peak of the overgod realm. The tall and mighty Buddha of Fortune chuckled. This prison suppression codex is not very useful to us Buddhist cultivators. However, it is a peerless treasure from the exalted celestial mountain. Although it is not a divine creation artifact, its value is above most divine creation artifacts. If you want me to give it up, you will have to take out treasures that can satisfy me. Otherwise, the second ancestor of the G people said embarrassedly, even if I get the prison suppression codex, with the strength of the G people, I can't keep such a supreme treasure. As long as someone is willing to take out enough benefits, I can also give it up. I will get the prison suppression codex first. Then, we will discuss how to split it. How about it? The expert of the Yi clan called Yiling's figure flashed and shot out like an arrow. He had actually used all his strength to get the prison suppression codex first. I think that such a treasure should be handed over to the Yuan Tiangong's punishment hall to be in charge of. The punishment hall's great elder shouted sternly and righteously. An astonishing divine might of heavenly punishment and divine punishment swept towards the expert of the Yi clan. Since you all want the prison suppression codex, why don't you give it to me? I am a Buddhist cultivator. I will not covet treasures. You can rest assured. The Buddha of Fortune let out a ferocious and sacred Buddhist chant. His body grew with a series of crackling sounds. He turned into a giant that was hundreds of feet tall. Like a Vajra, he strode towards the prison suppression codex. The second ancestor of the G people went to the left side of the Temple of Heaven and put away all the treasure chests into his storage ring. Then he went to the right side. He planned to break the barrier and take the torture tools inside for himself. We agreed to divide these treasures. Second ancestor of the G people, you actually planned to take them all for yourself. Quickly hand them over. The black-robed old man charged towards the second ancestor of the G people. The two of them started a frenzied battle. As a result, the Temple of Heaven was plunged into an earth-shattering, chaotic battle. In order to fight for the treasures, these peerless over-God experts no longer cared about the consumption of their energy. They no longer hid their strength. They took out their trump cards and fought to the death. Luo Yunxian and Luo Xingtian were below the Temple of Heaven. When they saw the battle on the Temple of Heaven, they were very pleased. Luo Xingtian sneered and said, "These peerless overgods are usually high and mighty. But when they encounter treasures, aren't they like mad dogs? It seems that I don't need to control anything. These overgod experts will also fight among themselves. In the end, the Luo clan will benefit." Luo Yunxian raised his eyebrows. His eyes were filled with confusion. Something is not right. I don't know about the others, but I know about the Punishment Hall's Great Elder. He has a steady temperament. Why is he fighting with the others for the Prison Suppression Codex so crazily? Great Elder, are you saying that someone secretly used a supreme divine power to affect their consciousness? Luo Xingtian's expression changed. He said in disbelief, "They are probably shackled by the divine prison of heaven's law. That's why their Taoist heart is affected." Luo Yunxian guessed. Swoosh, swoosh. Some of the cultivators who had been coveting the depths of the main hall rushed toward the Temple of Heaven. However, no one dared to take a step onto the Temple of Heaven. QL11, although the overgod experts were all in a weakened state, cultivators below the overgod level were not qualified to participate in a battle between peerless overgods. They planned to wait for the overgod experts to be injured and then take advantage of the chaos to reap some benefits. Luo Yunxian's divine light swept across the cultivators who rushed over. He sneered disdainfully. He had no intention of stopping them. Luo Xingtian was greatly disappointed when he did not find Su Fong in the crowd. Su Fong was in the fire pool. He stared intently at what was happening in the depths of the Temple of Heaven. He saw the battle between the overgod experts on the Temple of Heaven clearly. Strange. Although the Prison Suppression Codex is important, logically speaking, these overgod experts would not fight so desperately. Could it be that Luo Xingtian and Luo Yunxian are secretly manipulating them? Su Fong used the life shrinking technique. He sensed for a while, but did not find any clues. Suddenly, Su Fong thought of those souls that had been obliterated by an unseen force in the beheading hall. His heart skipped a beat. He could not help but shudder. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Rumble. The battle on the Temple of Heaven was in full swing. It was earth-shattering. The overgods gradually became enraged. All of them lost their minds. Very soon, some of them were injured, but no one retreated. Roar. A furious roar suddenly rang out. Then, a huge shadow enveloped the top of the Temple of Heaven. It quickly condensed into a terrifying giant tortoise that was 100 kilometers long. Hiss! The giant tortoise's head inhaled sharply at the Prison Suppression Codex. The barrier around the Prison Suppression Codex shattered layer by layer. The Prison Suppression Codex shook and was about to be devoured by the giant tortoise. Su Fong was surprised and shocked. It's that hunchback powerhouse from Sanskrit. I've severely injured him. How did his abilities suddenly become so shocking? It turned out that the hunchback powerhouse from Sanskrit had released his heavenly Tao avatar while the many over-god powerhouses were fighting to the death. He wanted to snatch the prison suppression codex away. Among these over-god powerhouses, the hunchback powerhouse from Sanskrit was the weakest. He was only a middle-rank over-god. Normally, any of the powerhouses on the Temple of Heaven would be able to suppress him easily. However, these over-god powerhouses had expended a shocking amount of energy in order to break through the barrier outside the Temple of Heaven. Coupled with the fact that they had unleashed their full strength earlier, the battle to the death had greatly reduced their abilities. The hunchbacked elite's giant tortoise Dharma idol caught him off guard and swallowed the prison-suppressing codex into its stomach. Leave the prison suppression codex behind. The powerhouses on the Temple of Heaven attacked one after another. The giant tortoise avatar shattered with a bang, and the prison suppression codex reappeared. Swoosh! The prison suppression codex flew toward the bottom of the Temple of Heaven. It was about to land in the hunchbacked powerhouse's hands. At that moment, Luo Xingtian suddenly took out the prison suppression divine brush. He dipped it in his blood essence and drew in the air, outlining streaks of blood-red light that intertwined into mysterious runes. Luo Xingtian also chanted in a low and profound voice. Whoosh! The blood-red runes flew into the void. In that instant, Luo Xingtian's aura merged with the main hall of the divine prison of Heaven's Law. He was like the supreme ruler of the main hall. Kill him. Chapter 2302. Luo Xingtian has finally made his move. Su Fong was shocked. Then, there was a kind of control force that controlled him to obey Luo Xingtian's orders and kill the hunchbacked expert. It felt like there was an invisible string in his body, and the other end of the string was in Luo Xingtian's hand. He was a puppet at Luo Xingtian's mercy. He really is using the token to control the cultivators. Su Fong flipped his hand and took out a token. This token was the warden's token that Luo Xingtian gave to Su Fong in the side hall of the front hall. He had always kept it in his body. It was the blood qi in this token that allowed him to be controlled by Luo Xingtian. Su Fong had long guessed that Luo Xingtian could use the bloodline of the Luo clan to control other low-level token holders with high-level tokens. Luo Xingtian had the prison-suppressing magic brush at this time. Except for the prison-suppressing codex, no other divine weapon could surpass the prison-suppressing magic brush. And at this time, except for Di Yuan, the other cultivators in the main hall had all integrated the edict written by Luo Xingtian and would be controlled by him. However, with Su Fong's current strength, mainly comprehending the essence of the heavenly Tao order, the token's influence on him was minimal. Qi, qi, qi. Su Fong activated the life shrinking technique and neatly cut off the control force in the dark. He also threw the token out of the formation, and it was quickly refined by the raging heavenly fire outside. The other cultivators did not have such an ability and involuntarily attacked the hunchbacked expert, according to Luo Xingtian's will. The hunchbacked expert in Sanskrit also had the edict written by Luo Xingtian. Although he was not obviously controlled like the other cultivators, his Taoist heart and will were greatly affected. A force of will dominated him, making him give up resisting. The shameless boy of the Luo clan is so despicable. He was worthy of being a Lord God expert. At such a critical moment, he could still maintain a trace of consciousness. He immediately bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of essence blood. He immediately regained consciousness and temporarily broke free from the control. Boom! An aura erupted from the hunchbacked old man's back and quickly condensed into a giant tortoise. On the giant tortoise's back was a huge mountain. His hunchback immediately shrunk, and he became like a normal person. The giant tortoise that carried the mountain on its back exuded an astonishing divine might. It split open the heavens and the earth, shattering the shackles of the divine prison of law around it. It quickly formed a world of its own. Thousands of cultivators attacked the world like a tidal wave, but the world remained motionless, unable to be shaken in the slightest. It turned out that the hunchbacked experts of Sanskrit weren't born hunchbacked. Instead, they cultivated a type of great Tao. When they used it, they could transform into a world of their own, forming an astonishing defense. Roar! The giant tortoise let out an earth-shattering roar. With it as the center, the world shook violently and swept out in all directions. Immediately, over 100 cultivators were shaken to death. Still not submitting? Luo Xingtian drew another rune with a brush of suppressing hell, which formed a kind of power of control, causing the hunchbacked Sanskrit expert's will and Tao heart to be shaken again. His eyes became confused, and then there was a painful struggle. Boom! Boom! Under the attacks of so many cultivators, the world of the hunchbacked Sanskrit expert finally shattered. The giant tortoise and the mountain on its back turned into nothingness. Whoosh! A figure leaped out from the sky. His white robes fluttered in the wind. A golden certificate floated above his head, exuding an unparalleled divine might of the great Tao. It enveloped him, giving him an aura that made him the master of everything in the world. He instantly arrived before the hunchbacked old man. Di Yuan. The surrounding cultivators were intimidated by Di Yuan's aura and all retreated. Give me the prison suppressing codex. Di Yuan shouted majestically. His voice was filled with a kind of supreme might. The hunchbacked old man clenched his teeth and swept the prison-suppressing codex out of his body, flying it toward Di Yuan. Then, the hunchbacked old man formed a seal and unleashed a burst of divine might, crushing over a dozen cultivators in front of him into dust. Only then did he leave resentfully. The prison-suppressing codex was about to fall into Di Yuan's hands. Swoosh! Swoosh! The great elder of the punishment hall, the E-clan expert Ling, the G-people's second patriarch, and all the other peerless sovereigns charged toward Di Yuan together. Have you all gone mad? I'm the supreme imperial people's young master. Aren't you all afraid of the revenge of the supreme imperial people by attacking me? Di Yuan shouted angrily. Boom! 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 Unexpectedly, those sovereigns all seemed to have lost their minds. They unleashed powerful divine abilities and launched fierce attacks toward Di Yuan. Although these peerless sovereigns were all extremely powerful, their emotions had been unknowingly affected by a mysterious power after the fierce battle earlier. Now that they were all under the control of the imperial book, they were far more powerful than the hunchbacked Sanskrit expert. Even if they were facing the supreme experts of the imperial people, they would not show mercy, let alone Di Yuan. Luo Xingtian shouted domineeringly. Di Yuan, the prison-suppressing codex is mine. If you want to snatch the prison-suppressing codex, you'll have to leave your life here today. Although Di Yuan's strength was extraordinary and he had the protection of the golden certificate divine artifact, he was not shackled by the divine prison of Heaven's Law's main hall. However, facing the encirclement of peerless sovereigns, he could not escape the fate of being suppressed in the end. He activated the golden certificate to release divine power and pushed back the attacking sovereigns. He shouted angrily, Luo Xingtian, you controlled these sovereigns to besiege me. Have you thought of the consequences? Luo Xingtian sneered disdainfully. You, Di Yuan, are high and mighty. Usually, everyone has to flatter and praise you. Do you really think that you're the supreme existence of all the worlds and that everyone has to listen to your orders? I, Luo Xingtian, am the supreme master of the divine prison of Heaven's Law. Give up the prison-suppressing codex, or don't blame me for suppressing you too. Luo Xingtian shouted murderously. Chi, the E-clan expert, Ling, shot out a sharp arrow shadow that tore through Di Yuan's defense and pierced into Di Yuan's back. Puff! Di Yuan's body was sent flying by the huge impact. A stream of blood spurted out from his mouth. His aura immediately became dispirited. His face was as pale as paper, and his body trembled uncontrollably. Although he wasn't seriously injured, he had completely lost the ability to fight for the prison-suppressing codex. Luo Xingtian and E-clan, I'll remember this debt. Di Yuan's sharp eyes swept across Luo Xingtian, Luo Yunshun, and Ling. Then, he flew toward the palace door. The prison-suppressing codex belongs to me, Luo Xingtian. Luo Xingtian grabbed the air and controlled the power of heavenly way order. The prison-suppressing codex flew toward him. In the fire pool, Su Fong frowned. Luo Xingtian can even control sovereigns. It won't be easy to take the prison-suppressing codex from him. Moreover, there's a mysterious existence that seems to be controlling everything in the dark. Su Fong hesitated. The golden rainbow monarch's voice came from his inner world. Kid, don't you want the prison-suppressing codex? If you don't act now, it will fall into the hands of Luo Xingtian. Why are you hesitating with such a treasure? That's right. Let's hit the prison-suppressing codex first. Su Fong no longer hesitated. He put away the god-slaying saber and shuttled through the fire pool. QL-11, the divine power of the yin-yang world, gushed out from his body. With the help of the power of heavenly way order, the divine power quickly merged with the inner world of the main palace. The power of a Dao integration stage immortal was displayed. Di Yuan was not shackled by the power of the divine prison of law because of the golden ticket divine tool. However, he could only use the divine tool to resist the shackles. He could not control the power of heavenly way order. Luo Xingtian could control the power of the divine prison of law with the help of the prison-suppressing divine brush. However, his strength was too weak. He was only in the divine venerable realm. He could only control those cultivators with the imperial edict. The strength he could unleash was very limited. Su Fong had comprehended the supreme mystery of the heavenly way order. There was no difference between being in the main palace and being outside. At this time, he had merged with the heavenly way and displayed his amazing strength. The divine power immediately enveloped everyone. Whoosh! The prison-suppressing codex was swept up by the divine power. It immediately changed direction and flew straight towards Su Fong. It's you, and you have such amazing ability. Who are you? Luo Xingtian's divine light changed instantly. How similar was this scene to the scene when he merged with the Tree of Stars in Sin Garden? Luo Xingtian was shocked and furious when he saw that the cooked duck was about to fly away again. A beam of starlight shot out from Luo Yunqian's eyes. It quickly turned into a star and exploded with a loud bang. It shattered Su Fong's divine power and sent the prison-suppressing codex flying into the air. I'm going to kill you. The hunchback powerhouse from Sanskrit had given up on snatching the prison-suppressing codex. When he saw Su Fong, he was instantly enraged and charged toward Su Fong without regard for anything else. You're just a middle-rank lord. You're courting death. Su Fong smiled domineeringly. With a flash of his body, he instantly moved in front of the hunchback powerhouse from Sanskrit. You're in the divine prison of law's main palace. How can you not be shackled? The hunchback powerhouse from Sanskrit's face was filled with murderous intent. He had never imagined that Su Fong would become 10 times stronger than when he was outside the main palace in such a short time. Since you've delivered yourself to me, then die. Su Fong said coldly. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Chains formed from the power of the heavenly Tao surged from all directions and shackled the hunchback powerhouse from Sanskrit. Boom! Su Fong punched out. It felt as if the power of the entire main palace was drawn to him and crushed the hunchback powerhouse's body. The overgod of the Brahmin race was shackled to the point that he couldn't move. He was sent flying like a cannonball. His divine body cracked and shattered. His bones, meridians, and divine dwellings were all shattered by this punch. Then Su Fong grabbed the hunchback powerhouse from Sanskrit and pulled him in front of him. Then he slapped the hunchback powerhouse's head. Puffed. The power of the yin-yang world penetrated the defense and crushed the Sanskrit powerhouse's head into mush. Even his yang spirit couldn't escape and was absorbed into Su Fong's body. Just like that, a hunchback powerhouse from Sanskrit lost his life. Boom, boom, boom. Under Luo Xingtian's command, all the hunchback powerhouses and cultivators unleashed their full strength and shattered Su Fong's divine might. Under the protection of the imperial edict, Luo Yunqian's body flickered and he grabbed the prison-suppressing codex. Xingtian, quickly fused with the prison suppressing codex. Chapter 2303. This person must be the turbid wave prince in disguise. It's just that his ability is too strange, so I can't see his true face. Il Woyang stared at Su Fong, hatred flashing in his eyes, as well as an astonishingly sharp arrow intent of extermination. Chi! A Xian Guang shot out from the top of Il Woyang's head, quickly condensing into a large black bow, exuding a terrifying aura of extermination. Kill! Il Woyang unleashed his heavenly Dao avatar. With a buzzing sound that resonated with the heavenly Dao, the large bow was automatically drawn. Swoosh! A gray arrow quickly condensed. The bowstring vibrated, and the arrow shot towards Su Fong with a terrifying aura that could tear apart the sky and exterminate all things. You don't know what's good for you. Su Fong sneered disdainfully. The power of the heavenly Dao order triggered an indescribable shackling claw that grabbed at the arrow with his right hand. The arrow condensed from Il Woyang's heavenly Dao avatar slowed down instantly and began to crumble layer by layer. Il Woyang realized in despair that the entire world was filled with Su Fong's claw. He couldn't resist at all. Looking at Su Fong's aura again, Il Woyang trembled, and the anger and hatred in his heart instantly turned into fear. This person is definitely not a third-stage Dao integration cultivator. He has at least the strength of a lower-stage lord, and can control the power of the heavenly Dao order. He can be said to be invincible in the main hall of the divine prison of heaven law. The arrow shattered and disappeared, and even Il Woyang was about to collapse along with it. Il Woyang fell into despair. At this moment, a sharp arrow aura appeared around him, turning into a dense world of arrows that tore apart Su Fong's shackling claw. As it turned out, it was the Yi clan's chief god expert, Yiling, who had acted to save Il Woyang. He looked at Su Fong and shouted coldly, "How can a mere Dao integration cultivator like you be arrogant before a supreme chief god? Then I'll be arrogant for once today." Su Fong took a step forward domineeringly, charging toward the Yi clan cultivator. Although the prison-suppressing codex was in Luo Xingtian's hands, he couldn't integrate it in a short time. Su Fong decided to teach these peerless lords a lesson first. Boom! Boom! Su Fong was inside the divine prison of Heaven's Law. The power of the divine prison of Heaven's Law burst out like a torrent of the order of Heaven's Law, forming an astonishing shackle. It transformed into chains and thunderbolts, crushing towards Yiling like a tsunami. Yiling's Arrow Sea world kept shattering under the pressure. In the end, it was overpowered by Su Fong's attacks and was forced to retreat. At this time, the Ji People's second Grandmaster launched a fierce attack on Su Fong from the side. His entire body turned into a strange sound wave, forming a shock wave that swept towards Su Fong. The Grand Elder of the Luo clan, Luo Yunshun, used the scroll that Luo Xingtian had specially written for him. He was far more powerful than the other Supreme Lords, so he suddenly threw out a punch. The fist technique propelled a terrifying divine might as if stars were falling. With a boom, it shattered Su Fong's world. Facing the joint attack of two Supreme Lords, Su Fong sneered coldly. He activated the God-slaying saber and activated the power of the inner world of the main hall. It turned into a monstrous saber light that roared like the Milky Way, cutting off the sound wave formed by the Ji People's second Grandmaster and shattering Luo Yunshun's divine might. Ah! The Ji People's second Grandmaster screamed in agony as his body appeared. His right arm was chopped off from the shoulder. A terrifying murderous aura surged into his body crazily. Not only was he unable to regenerate his arm, but it was also constantly destroying his divine body. Luo Yunshun retreated in shock. He opened his mouth and spat out a ray of starlight. It quickly turned into an array formed by more than 10 stars in front of him. Only then did he manage to dissolve the saber light. Su Fong single-handedly repelled 3 Supreme Lords and even severely injured the Ji People's second Grandmaster. Such terrifying strength immediately shocked everyone present. The Buddha of Fortune and the black-robed elder were filled with shock and fear. They no longer dared to step forward. Those cultivators who were under Luo Xingtian's control were also shocked awake. They trembled and looked at Su Fong with eyes full of reverence. Luo Xingtian's wild laughter rang out. I didn't expect such an expert to enter the divine prison of law. You are indeed very strong, but so what? You can't escape the fate of being suppressed by me in the end. Su Fong looked at Luo Xingtian, and his eyes suddenly focused. Luo Xingtian was injecting his blood qi into the prison suppressing codex. In a short period of time, the prison suppressing codex clearly had his aura. His body also quickly possessed the aura of the prison suppressing codex. Su Fong's heart sank. Luo Xingtian can integrate the prison suppressing codex at such a shocking speed. You didn't expect this, did you? The previous owner of the prison suppressing codex was the supreme expert of the Luo clan. I only need to infuse my blood qi into it to activate a part of the prison suppressing codex's power. Moreover, I now have the blood essence of the Emperor Realm expert of my clan in my body, so integrating the prison suppressing codex is a piece of cake. After another incense stick's worth of time, I can activate the prison suppressing codex and control the entire divine prison of law. I can even release the sealed ancient experts from the prison suppressing codex. In this divine prison of law, who could be my opponent? I don't care who you are. Once this young master fuses with the suppressing prison codex, the first person I will kill will be you. No, this young master will not kill you. I will put you into the suppressing prison codex and make you my slave. Luo Xingtian was very proud and arrogant. Do you think I will give you another incense stick's worth of time? Su Fong inexplicably snorted. He stepped in the air and was about to kill Luo Xingtian. At this moment, buzz, the mysterious Tao runes of the heavenly secret life-shortening technique and the true text of the heavenly secret solution flashed violently at the same time. The heavenly secret life-shortening technique had the supreme ability to change fate, while the heavenly secret solution had the power to deduce the heavenly secret. These two divine abilities allowed Su Fong to give an early warning in advance when he encountered a life or death crisis, helping Su Fong to overcome the crisis time and time again. QL11, however, it was the first time Su Fong had encountered such a violent reaction. There will be a huge crisis, and it will be a life or death crisis. Why is Luo Xingtian giving me such a terrifying sense of danger? Su Fong abruptly stopped in his tracks, and his heart was in turmoil. Only now do you know fear? It's too late. Kneel down immediately, offer your primordial spirit, and accept my shackles. Maybe I will. Luo Xingtian thought Su Fong was afraid, and became more and more proud. However, before he could finish his words, the divine light suddenly changed, and his voice stopped abruptly. Sizzle. The blood qi that Luo Xingtian had injected into the prison-suppressing codex was flowing away at a speed countless times faster than before. Traces of blood qi madly drilled into the prison-suppressing codex, and his body was drying up at a speed visible to the naked eye. Everyone was stupefied by this sudden scene. Don't panic, Xingtian. I'm here to save you. Luo Yunshan pounced on Luo Xingtian, using a divine power to shake Luo Xingtian away. Bang! However, a huge force of attraction pulled Luo Yunshan over as well. Even with his cultivation, he could not escape and was pulled to Luo Xingtian's side. First Elder, why don't you use your blood qi to help me? Luo Xingtian's withered face suddenly revealed a strange and evil smile, and he reached out to grab Luo Yunshan. Luo Xingtian, what are you doing? You're not Luo Xingtian. Who are you? Luo Yunshan was shrouded by the aura of the prison-suppressing codex, and a peerless master god like him was controlled like a weakling. He could not help but exclaim loudly. Possession. Everyone reacted, and they were all inexplicably shocked. The situation could not be more obvious. There was a mysterious and powerful existence in the prison-suppressing codex. After devouring Luo Xingtian's blood qi, it was about to come out of the prison-suppressing codex. However, Luo Xingtian's blood qi was obviously not enough, and Luo Yunshan, a member of the Luo clan, could only follow suit. Damn it, The Luo clan has screwed us all. Once Luo Xingtian and Luo Yunshan are possessed, none of us can escape. Let's go, or we'll all be sucked dry. Soon, some people reacted and swarmed toward the palace gate. The main palace is sealed, and no one can get out. The only way is to take advantage of the fact that Luo Xingtian and Luo Yunshan are completely devoured, and the existence in the prison suppressing codex escapes. Then we'll all die here. Su Fangda shouted and activated the god-slaying saber. A white saber radiance swept up and slashed toward the prison suppressing codex with earth-shattering force. This person is right. The only chance now is to stop the prison suppressing codex. Only Luo Xingtian and Luo Yunshan's blood qi is useful to the powerful existence in the prison suppressing codex. As long as we stop him from devouring the Luo clan's blood qi, he won't be able to escape the shackles of the prison suppressing codex, and he won't be a threat to us. The black-robed overgod growled. He controlled a black, cold flame that swept towards the Hell Suppression Codex endlessly. Overgods like Yi Ling, the Ji People's second Grandmaster, the Buddha of Fortune, and the other Yuan Tiangong geniuses like Il Woyang, Qian Gang, and Chu Bingyan also realized the severity of the situation. They all unleashed their full strength to attack the prison suppressing codex. Who knew? An aura emanated from the prison suppressing codex and quickly condensed in a heavenly way order power in the surroundings. It intertwined into a cage, enveloping Luo Xingtian, Luo Yunshan, and the prison suppressing codex. Boom, boom, boom. The cage shook, but it was still far from shattering. As for Luo Yunshan's blood qi, it surged into Luo Xingtian's body and then into the prison suppressing codex. As the blood qi kept pouring in, the aura released by the prison suppressing codex became denser. The cage that was condensed around it also became a real substance, and it became harder to shake. Poof! Luo Yunshan's physical body completely withered and turned into a pile of ashes. A blood qi that contained a powerful aura of life surged out of the prison suppressing codex and surged into Luo Xingtian's body. Luo Xingtian's originally shriveled and withered body was like a balloon that was filled with air in an instant. It expanded rapidly and was about to explode at any time. This continued for about a dozen breaths. After Luo Xingtian's body expanded to 100 feet in size, it quickly shrunk and condensed, returning to its normal state. At this moment, Luo Xingtian's appearance had changed greatly. He had turned into a handsome but pale young man. Even his hair had turned silver white. This young man had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. His eyes were as deep as an abyss, as if a part of the universe was hidden within. However, there was also a boundless sense of deathly stillness. His aura was empty and transcendent, as if it did not belong to this world. Sovereign. This person is actually a supreme sovereign. Chapter 2304. Luo Xingtian and Luo Yunshan were too clever, but in the end, they were devoured by a venerable emperor who was suppressed in the prison suppressing codex. Everyone fell into despair when they saw the peerless venerable emperor who looked like a handsome young man. Venerable emperors were the top existences in the universe. Peerless masters at the peak of the overgod realm were as insignificant as ants in front of venerable emperors. Moreover, the young venerable emperor had the prison suppressing codex. Even venerable emperors could not escape the fate of being suppressed in the divine law prison. The great elder of the punishment hall, the master of the Yi clan, Yi Ling, and the other peerless overgods immediately understood why no venerable emperors had appeared in Yuan Tiangong, despite the appearance of the divine law prison. Venerable emperors were almost on the same level as the heavenly way, and they had an ability to sense the mysteries of fate that ordinary people could not. They had obviously predicted that the divine law prison was extremely dangerous, and that even venerable emperors could be trapped in it. Therefore, no venerable emperors had come to the divine law prison. Su Fang was also shocked and desperate. but he was unwilling to give up. He used his perfect sensing ability and the life-shrinking technique to sense the young, venerable emperor's aura. However, what he sensed with his perfect sensing ability was ethereal and nothingness, like a mortal sensing the heavenly way. The only feeling he had was that it was mysterious and could only be looked up and worshipped, but could not be guessed. The life-shrinking technique could not sense the venerable emperor's fate either, as if he did not exist between heaven and earth, and was not connected to the universe in the slightest. Su Fong was shocked. Even the white-robed master of the imperial people, a supreme existence who surpasses ordinary venerable emperors, could not be separated from the fate of heaven and earth, unless he has transcended. Has this young venerable emperor already transcended heaven and earth? Impossible. If this young venerable emperor really has the strength to transcend heaven and earth, he would not be sealed in the prison-suppressing codex, nor would he need to possess the bloodline of the Luo clan of Luo Xingtian and Luo Yunshan. There is only one possibility. Only a dead person with no trace left in heaven and earth will not be connected to the heavenly way. This young venerable emperor is a resurrected master. This deduction made Su Fong feel as if his entire body was covered in ice shard from the inside out, and he shivered. Swish! Swish! After a moment of shock, everyone burst out with all their strength, without hesitation, and madly rushed towards the palace gate. If I had the piercing sun golden rainbow, I might have been able to escape the shackles of the divine prison of heaven's law. The golden rainbow king let out a helpless sigh from Su Fong's inner world. You talk too much, Su Fong angrily rebuked. Using the power of the heavenly Tao order, he merged with the aura of the inner world of the divine prison of heaven's law and flashed out from the depths of the main hall. When he reappeared, he was already in front of the hall door. All of you shall become my slaves, like the cold and indifferent voice of the heavenly Tao. It echoed in everyone's mind and ears. The next moment, a black xianguang appeared above Su Fong's head and quickly condensed into a thick black book. It was the prison-suppressing codex. The prison-suppressing codex suddenly separated from the middle, and a distorted divine might shot out from it, enveloping Su Fong within. At this moment, Su Fong had become a weakling. He could only watch helplessly as the cold heavenly Tao order seeped into his body and shackled his Tao palace of heaven and earth and his divine aperture. Whoosh, the black xianguang in the prison-suppressing codex flashed, and Su Fong's body quickly turned from real to illusory. He turned into a shadow and was pulled into the prison-suppressing codex by the black xianguang. The black xianguang disappeared into the prison-suppressing codex, and a lifelike figure appeared on the page. It was Su Fong. Then, the prison-suppressing codex closed and disappeared into nothingness. A similar scene played out in various parts of the main hall of the divine prison of heaven's law. No one, including those peerless sovereigns, could escape the fate of being suppressed. Outside the divine prison of heaven's law, using the array created by the middle-aged imperial people, Di Yuan escaped from the main hall in advance. Looking into the depths of the divine prison of heaven's law, Di Yuan's eyes were filled with unwillingness. I am not satisfied that I didn't get the prison-suppressing codex, the middle-aged man in white said indifferently. It seems that Xiao Zun has experienced too few setbacks. You need to sharpen yourself more. Before he finished speaking, rumble. A large area of the divine prison of heaven's law began to collapse. Starting from the depths, it shattered layer by layer and rapidly spread to the outside. An astonishing force of impact swept out in all directions, causing the ruins outside the divine palace of Advent to shake violently. The numerous cultivators guarding the entrance of the divine prison of heaven's law turned pale with fright and retreated one after another. In less than half an hour, the huge divine prison of heaven's law was completely turned into ruins. Not a single complete building could be seen floating in the void, dancing with the chaotic spatial airflow. The collapse of the divine prison of heaven's law caused a great tremor in the divine palace of Advent. All kinds of chaotic energy erupted, causing all the ruins around the divine palace of Advent to become incomparably chaotic. Everyone who saw this scene trembled with fear. They stared dumbfoundedly at the ruins of the divine prison of heaven's law. Di Yuan's face turned pale, and his whole body trembled uncontrollably. If this person was in the divine prison of heaven's law, he would definitely not be able to escape death. The middle-aged man in white said in a low voice, "Something big must have happened in the divine prison of heaven's law. I'm afraid that no one who entered the divine prison of heaven's law will be lucky enough to escape. The matter this time has become big." Sir Sufang, a middle-aged man, trembled as he asked Song Yanhai, who was still in a daze. This person was none other than venerable Tyrant Blood, who had been rescued by Su Fong and had left the ruins of the divine prison of heaven's law in advance. The holy son of Su Fong has long expected this to happen, and he already has a plan to deal with it. Don't worry about him, Song Yanhai said casually. However, his heart had also sunk into a bottomless abyss. At the same time, he rejoiced. If it wasn't for Su Fong's reminder, he would also have been unable to escape this calamity. Whoosh, whoosh. One figure after another walked out of the void. They were all Emperor Realm Masters from Yuan Tiangong. QL11, these supreme existences all wore serious expressions as they constantly projected their senses to sense the inside of the divine prison of law ruins. As a result, they found that the area had fallen into boundless chaos, and even these Emperor Realm Masters could not sense anything. This result caused their expressions to turn grave. Emperor Sangqiu suddenly looked at Song Yanhai, and the voice of his Yuan spirit rang out in Song Yanhai's mind. Song Yanhai, is Su Fong also in the divine prison of law? Song Yanhai trembled as he replied, yes. After pondering for a moment, Emperor Sangqiu's figure suddenly flickered as he headed straight for the chaotic area. A moment later, Emperor Sangqiu flew out of the chaotic area and returned to the distance. Emperor Only Dao asked, "How is it?" Emperor Sangqiu shook his head and said, "It's chaos inside." Even this emperor can sense the danger of death. Emperor Only Dao noticed a drop of blood on Emperor Sangqiu's right sleeve, and his aura was somewhat chaotic. He could not help but be shocked. Then, the two of them used their supreme divine abilities to secretly deduce, but they were unable to deduce any useful information. They could not conclude that Su Fong had died, nor could they conclude that Su Fong was still alive. With the supreme divine artifact blocking the deduction ability, Su Fong this time, I'm afraid. Emperor Only Dao sighed helplessly. If he dies, that is also his fate. The matter has yet to be concluded. It is still too early to say anything now. Emperor Sangqiu snorted, a look of regret in his eyes. The premature death of such a peerless genius meant that the success rate of their plan to enter the exalted celestial mountain to investigate the truth of the heaven and earth anomaly was greatly reduced. At the same time, Emperor Sangqiu also felt sorry for Su Fong's death. The Emperor Realm Masters stayed for 3 days, but did not find anything in the chaotic area. In the end, they all left in embarrassment. Su Fong was sucked into the prison's suppressing codex, feeling light as a feather. After a moment, he suddenly felt heavy, and then fell to the ground with a thud. Because his physical body, Dao Palace, and divine aperture were all shackled, the fall made him dizzy. When he finally woke up, he felt that the surroundings were too quiet. When he looked around, he could not help but feel shocked and stunned. This was a vast formation space, dark and deep. A gloomy aura enveloped the space, making it hard for people to breathe. It formed a huge pressure on one's Dao heart and willpower. People with weak willpower would go crazy in a few days in this environment. Looking to the side, he saw dozens of cultivators. The great elder of the punishment hall, the black-robed old man, and other peerless gods, as well as Luoyang, Chu Bingyin, and other Yuan Tiangong geniuses, were all in this space. They were suppressed to the point that they could only sit cross-legged in the darkness. Some of them had not even woken up and were lying on the ground. In the deeper parts of the formation space, there were many more figures. Unfortunately, Su Fong was shackled at this time, and even his consummate power was limited. He could only see about 1,000 feet away. Su Fong struggled to stand up. When he was about to look around, his expression suddenly changed. It turned out that there were traces of heavenly marks in the void around him. They were densely intertwined, forming an invisible cage. It was less than 100 feet in size, imprisoning him inside. This is what mortals often call a prison by drawing a circle. I never thought that I, Su Fong, would be imprisoned in a place like this one day. Su Fong controlled his breathing and quickly calmed down. Suddenly, a roar full of anger and despair came from not far away. I am a peerless genius of Yuan Tiangong. One day, I will become a peerless sovereign. How can I be imprisoned in the prison suppressing codex? Luo Xingtian, you really deserve to die. Great Elder Yilong, save me. It turned out that Ilwoyang was suddenly in a desperate situation of certain death, and he was suppressed by the space inside the prison suppressing codex. His Tao heart was eroded, and he was on the verge of collapse. Chapter 23:05. In terms of strength, Ilwoyang was in no way inferior to Chu Bingyan. In fact, he even surpassed Chu Bingyan. However, Ilwoyang was, after all, an ancient god clan from the ancient god world. He was like a flower that grew up in a greenhouse. Although his talent was extraordinary, his Tao heart and will were far inferior to Chu Bingyan's. The black-robed elder said in a deep voice, Bingyan, save your strength. We are all suppressed in this prison suppression codex. We'd better find a way to escape. You want to escape from the prison suppression codex? Hope is slim. The Buddha of Fortune heaved a long sigh. The one suppressing us is a venerable emperor. Even if we escape from the prison suppression codex, how can we be a match for that young venerable emperor? The first elder of the punishment hall bitterly smiled. According to what I know, the suppressing prison codex is actually the core of the divine prison codex. The people suppressed within are all peerless experts from ancient times to before the upheaval. I have never heard of anyone escaping from the suppressing prison codex. The Luo clan is really hateful. If it weren't for Luo Xingtian and Luo Yunshun, how could we be reduced to such a state? The expert from the Yi clan shouted angrily. Ilwoyang roared angrily. If I had known this, I would have killed Luo Xingtian back then. Today's events wouldn't have happened. The other cultivators who were shackled also sighed in despair. I don't believe that we can escape from this prison suppression codex. A middle-aged man from an unknown god world, whose cultivation had reached the peak of the Tao integration realm, and who was an extraordinary domain lord, let out a roar full of indignation. He directly crashed into the invisible cage around him. Crack! Just as this person touched the cage, a black bolt of lightning struck out and landed on his body, causing him to flicker crazily. His divine body was shackled both inside and outside. Apart from the defense of his divine body, he had no other defensive power, let alone the ability to resist. The lightning moved back and forth on his body, splitting his skin and flesh open. Even his primordial spirit was repeatedly bombarded by the lightning. He was in so much pain that he had the strength to scream at first, but in the end, he completely lost the strength to scream. This scene, it caused everyone to tremble, and then they fell completely into despair. Suddenly, Su Fong suddenly said, Everyone, it's not impossible to escape from the prison suppressing codex. Swish! Swish! Everyone looked at Su Fong. Some of them were filled with doubt, while others were filled with hope. After all, Su Fong's performance in the main hall was obvious to all. His words were clearly not meant to comfort everyone. Furthermore, everyone was currently in a desperate situation. Any glimmer of hope would be treated as a life-saving straw. Ilwoyang snorted disdainfully. Who do you think you are? Supreme sovereign, or a supreme existence that transcends the heavens and earth? The second forefather of the Ji people said in a gloomy voice, What a shameless boast. You overestimate yourself. Even a venerable emperor would find it difficult to escape from the prison suppressing codex, let alone a mere path integration cultivator like you. Su Fong retorted bluntly, I'm just a Tao integration stage cultivator, yet I can sever one of your arms and even take your life. As for you, Il Woyang, you're only a clown before me, and dealing with you is no different than crushing an ant. You, the second forefather of the Ji people, gritted his teeth. Yi Ling shouted, "Enough! Let's listen to him. What is the hope he spoke of?" Su Fong said slowly, "First, you've overestimated that young venerable emperor. This person is definitely not as strong as you think." The first elder of the punishment hall said in surprise, "We have so many king gods. How can we be wrong? The one who possessed Luo Xingtian was indeed the primordial spirit of a venerable emperor. There's no mistake about it. This person is indeed a venerable emperor. However, his current identity is not the owner of the prison-suppressing codex. Like us, he's also a prisoner shackled by the prison-suppressing codex." Su Fang's words shocked and stunned many king gods. However, when they thought about it carefully, their eyes suddenly became incomparably hardy. If that venerable emperor could leave the prison-suppressing codex, he would have easily suppressed them when they entered the divine prison of law. Why would he wait until now? He would not have gone through so much trouble to possess Luo Xingtian and devour Luo Yunshin. Just as Su Fang had said, that young venerable emperor was also an expert shackled by the prison-suppressing codex. No one knew what had happened, but the expert guarding the divine prison of law had disappeared. Only then did he regain some freedom. However, the strength he could use was very limited. He could only barely control a portion of the prison-suppressing codex's power with the help of the Luo clan's bloodline. All the king gods were greatly energized. Their previous despondency and despair were swept away. "I admire you for being able to remain so calm under such circumstances." Chu Bingyin's master, the black-robed old man, cupped his fist towards Su Fang across the cage. His tone showed that he completely treated Su Fang as an equal. The other king gods also looked at Su Fang in a new light. Even the Ji people's second forefather and the Yi clan's expert, Yi Ling, could not help but admire Su Fang. Su Fang continued, "Just now, the punishment hall's grand elder said that no one has ever escaped from the prison-suppressing codex. That's not accurate. As far as I know, there was an expert who escaped from the prison-suppressing codex outside the main hall of the divine prison of law." "There is such a thing? That's impossible," the king gods exclaimed one after another. Su Fang chuckled and looked at the Ji people's second forefather. The Ji people's grand elder should know about this. The Ji people's second forefather snorted coldly. "Nonsense. How would I know about an expert who escaped from the prison-suppressing codex?" Su Fang sneered. "That expert from the demon clan, Yuan Fu, entered the divine prison of law together with your Ji people's experts. Don't tell me you don't know? The Ji people actually colluded with the demon clan? Do the Ji people want to be exterminated?" The punishment hall's grand elder and the others shouted angrily. The Buddha of Fortune, in particular, glared at the Ji people's second forefather like an angry Vajra. The Buddhist sect was originally the most outstanding sect in the universe. Later on, it gradually declined and retreated to the far west. It was precisely because of the demon clan. The Ji people's second forefather sneered. "How can my clan be related to the demon clan? You're slandering me." The Ji people's experts and the expert from the demon clan, Yuan Fu, worked together to hunt me down in the Sin Garden. In the end, the Ji people's experts were all killed by me. Didn't you enter the divine prison of law because of this? Su Fang's words made the Ji people's second forefather's eyes flash with hatred and anger. Everyone was shocked again. The way they looked at Su Fang instantly changed subtly. Su Fang continued. "That expert from the demon clan, Yuan Fu, was the clone of one of the demon clan's experts that was suppressed in the prison-suppressing codex. He took advantage of the first anomaly to escape from the prison-suppressing codex. This time, he entered the divine prison of law with the purpose of rescuing his original body that was sealed in the prison-suppressing codex. But later, he disappeared without a trace, and I don't know where he went." Everyone was excited again. Even if the expert from the demon clan could escape from the prison-suppressing codex, they might still have a chance to escape. The Buddha of Fortune said in a low voice, "If you can help me escape, the Buddhist sect will owe you a huge favor. If there's a chance, we will repay you with all our might." Ling said, "It's the same for my clan. As long as we can escape, the Yi clan will repay you tenfold." The black-robed elder and the Punishment Hall's grand elder also spoke one after another, making their promises. However, the G people's second grandmaster remained silent. He also knew that the G people and the demon clan had worked together to hunt down Su Fong. Su Fong would definitely not save him. However, he felt a little strange in his heart. Why would the G people and the demon clan work together to hunt down this nameless middle-aged cultivator in Sin Botany Garden? The method is very simple. We wait for that young, venerable sovereign to appear. Then, we will work together to subdue him. Then, we will kill our way out of the prison, suppressing Codex. Everyone thought that Su Fong had a good idea. They didn't expect it to be so simple. They were instantly disappointed. Il Woyang sneered. "We can't even escape from this prison. How can we subdue a venerable sovereign expert? Why don't you display your supreme strength that surpasses the venerable sovereign and lead us out of the prison, suppressing Codex?" The G people's second grandmaster sneered. "You can't even walk out of the prison that's shackling you. How can you fight against a venerable sovereign expert in the space inside the prison, suppressing Codex? You want to subdue a venerable sovereign expert? What a fool's dream. Ridiculous." Su Fong smiled casually and sat down cross-legged in the prison. "Fate is the creation and control of the heavens. If I want to live, the heavens can't take it away. Fate is the creation and control of the heavens. If I want to live, the heavens and earth will shake." Su Fong recited the incantation silently. From the depths of his divine aperture, some mysterious Tao runes of fate suddenly appeared in his yang spirit or his internal sea of magic power. More and more Tao runes appeared and surrounded his divine aperture. "My fate is in my own hands. The prison-suppressing Codex can't shackle my primordial spirit. Break! Chi! Chi! Chi!" The prison-suppressing Codex's divine power that was shackling Su Fong's primordial spirit met the terrifying power of the Tao runes. It was like ice and snow meeting the scorching sun. The Tao runes were incinerated layer by layer. Under the supreme power of the life-shrinking technique, all the shackles inside the divine aperture were shattered. Next, it's time to go to the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace. Su Fong used the heavenly Tao order mantra that he had comprehended from the Tadpole text and secretly operated the World Tree and Yang Meridian. The power of the world of Yin and Yang, which contained the power of the heavenly Tao order, gradually dissolved the shackles in the heavenly Tao Palace. Then, the power of the world of Yin and Yang spread from the heavenly Tao Palace to his meridians and flesh, breaking the shackles layer by layer. After about 3 months, Su Fong finally regained his freedom. He stared at the empty prison around him. His eyes flashed with the light of deducing the mysteries of the world. At the same time, the power of the heavenly Tao order also surged out of his body and spread to the surroundings. With the help of the heavenly divination eyes and his profound understanding of the heavenly Tao order, the prison formed by the intertwining heavenly Tao marks became incomparably clear in his eyes. Then, Su Fong began to madly deduce these marks. His hands constantly formed hand seals. Another half a year passed. Su Fong suddenly formed a hand seal and struck out with the power of the heavenly Tao order, landing on the surrounding prison. The heavenly Tao marks actually separated into the surroundings, revealing a hole big enough for a person to leave. Su Fong's figure flashed, and he passed through the prison. Chapter 23:06. How is this possible? This person can control the power of the heavenly Tao in the divine prison of law, and can even control the power of the prison-suppressing Codex. Who is he? Could he be an expert from the exalted celestial mountain who guards the divine prison of law? In an instant, Su Fong became incomparably tall in everyone's eyes. At the same time, he became even more unfathomable. Su Fong looked at everyone. His eyes suddenly became resolute and bright. Everyone, I have the ability to help you break free from the shackles of this prison. I can also help you break free from the shackles of your divine dwellings and divine apertures. However, if you want to escape from the prison suppressing codex, you will need to work together. The over-god experts and the other cultivators were all invigorated. Su Fong continued, but I'll say the ugly words first. I don't dare guarantee that I'll really be able to charge out of the prison suppression codex. Once I fail, all of you should be very clear about the consequences. The black-robed elder smiled domineeringly. Rather than waiting for death here, we might as well fight to the death. Who knows? We might even have a chance of survival. The first elder of the punishment hall said in a deep voice, "We have all experienced countless dangers and stepped over mountains of corpses and seas of blood to obtain our current strength and status. Which one of us is afraid of death?" The other experts also nodded. QL11 Su Fong said, "That's right. Rather than waiting for death here and struggling at death's door, we might as well fight to the death." Then, the divine light swept over the other cultivators. Su Fong continued, "Although it is easy for me to break the prison, removing the shackles in your bodies will consume a lot of energy. Therefore, I can only temporarily remove the shackles in the bodies of the overgod experts and some powerful experts. As for the others, you can only wait for a while." Although the other cultivators were disappointed, they could not help but express their understanding. The key to their escape was Su Fong. If he used up all his energy, it would be meaningless even if he released everyone. Ling of the E clan suddenly asked, "You said that you can lead us out of here. What is your reliance? We still don't know your name. How can we trust you?" Swish, swish, swish. Everyone's eyes focused on Su Fong. Su Fong said casually, "I am the Yin-Yang Godlord." Yin-Yang Godlord? Everyone looked at each other. Not only was this name unfamiliar, it was also a little strange. They had never heard of such a person in all the worlds. G Clan's second ancestor said indifferently, "You are not shackled in the inner space of the suppressing prison codex. But even if we regain our freedom, we will still be shackled and unable to use even 10% of our strength. How can we fight an Emperor Realm Master? This is the reason why I dared to fight against that young venerable sovereign." Su Fong switched to transmitting his primordial spirit voice to the God Lords and late-stage Dao integration stage experts. All the cultivators' primordial spirits were shackled, making it difficult for them to communicate with their primordial spirits. At that moment, only Su Fong could do it. "This king's natal magic weapon can gather all of your divine essence into my divine body, which means that I temporarily possess your power and should be able to fight against that Emperor Master." It turned out that Su Fong had long thought of his own life magic treasure. Mo Tiangong had refined a life magic treasure for him. When Su Fong had advanced to the Dao integration realm, he had fused his life magic treasure with the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda. He had been nurturing it in his inner world. Although it had not fully matured, Su Fong had been constantly nourishing it with various spiritual items and chaotic qi. Now, it could use at least 80% of the life magic treasure's power. The Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda focused on fusing with the physical body and bloodline. The Pagoda Divine Artifact refined by Mo Tiangong focused on magic power and divine abilities. After the two were fused, they complemented each other and made up for each other's power. Su Fong also had the Yin-Yang World Force that could fuse any kind of power. Coupled with his extremely powerful divine body, it was enough for him to use his new life magic treasure to condense the power of these masters. Those overgod masters were shackled by the prison suppression codex outside and could not use much of their power. However, they were not shackled inside the life magic treasure. Su Fong could use their power to fight the young Dizun. After all, the young Dizun was also a master shackled by the prison suppression codex. It was impossible for him to have the power of a true Dizun. Of course, Su Fong had to bear the power of so many overgod masters at once. It was a huge test for his life magic treasure, divine body, and primordial spirit. He might even be injured. In order to escape from the prison suppression codex, Su Fong did not care about anything else. According to what you said, we have to enter your life magic treasure and be shackled by you. If you have any evil intentions, wouldn't we have escaped from the tiger's mouth and enter the wolf's mouth? The G people's second forefather snorted. Now that things have come to this, if you don't believe me, you can only wait for death here, Su Fong said in a cold and embarrassed voice. Su Fong continued, Everyone, please consider carefully. If you trust me, I will release you from your shackles. If you don't believe me, I will not force you. As for you, G-Air, he paused for a moment. G-Air, you don't need to consider anything. The G people can even collude with the demon race. What else can they not do? Therefore, I will not release you from your shackles, nor will I take you into my life magic treasure. The G people's second forefather was furious. Then, he sneered disdainfully. How can I not worry about you? I believe that the others will not hand their fates over to you, a Tao integration cultivator of unknown origins. The other god sovereigns and Tao integration experts all fell silent. Su Fong said coldly, that young venerable sovereign swallowed Luo Xingtian and Luo Yunshan because he wanted to use their Luo clan bloodline to fuse with the prison-suppressing codex. Once he fuses with the prison-suppressing codex, the space inside the codex will be under his control. Even venerable sovereigns will find it difficult to fight against him here. There's not much time left for everyone to consider. The Buddha of creation was the first to speak. Since things have come to this, I am willing to put my life and death into the Yin-Yang God, Lord's magic treasure. The black-robed elder also said in a low voice, I have no other choice. Then, the first elder of the punishment hall nodded in agreement. The Yi-Clan expert, Yiling, thought for a moment and also agreed. Since the four peerless god sovereigns had agreed, how could the other Tao integration experts disagree? The G people's second forefather's expression instantly became extremely unsightly. Next, Su Fong performed a hand seal and entered the cage, shackling the god sovereigns and Tao integration experts. Then, he used the heavenly secret life shrinking technique to wipe out the shackles inside the divine aperture. He released the power of the yin-yang world and completely wiped out the power of the heavenly Tao order, shackling the divine dwellings and the physical body. The entire process took nearly 3 months. Finally, the shackles of the four god sovereigns were completely removed. During this time, Su Fong was worried that he would alarm the young venerable sovereign. Fortunately, this did not happen. Clearly, just as Su Fong had predicted, the young venerable sovereign was currently concentrating all his energy on fusing with the prison-suppressing codex. He had no time, or perhaps he did not care about these shackled cultivators. Then, Su Fong rescued more than 20 late-stage Tao integration experts. Chu Bingyin, Il Luoyang, and other Yuan Tiangong geniuses were also rescued by Su Fong. When he rescued these cultivators, Su Fong's power of the yin-yang world did not arouse suspicion. However, Su Fong's power of the yin-yang world now contained the power of the heavenly Tao order. It was very different from before. Otherwise, it would be very easy for people to suspect his true identity. Su Fong had also consumed a lot of energy, especially when he continuously used the heavenly secret life shrinking technique. Chapter 2307. Looking at the many trembling cultivators, the young venerable sovereign's eyes were filled with disdain. It was as if the heavens were looking down on a group of ants on the ground. My name is Jiang Taijia. I am a supreme existence that coexists with the heavens and earth. Your only choice is to submit to me. Otherwise, you won't even have the right to choose death. As the young venerable sovereign's majestic voice fell, a supreme pressure suddenly enveloped Su Fong and the other cultivators. At this moment, everyone felt as if the heavens and earth had changed hands. Their surroundings were filled with the terrifying pressure formed by the power of the heavenly Tao order. Even those over-God experts were trembling from the bottom of their hearts at this moment. From their souls to their divine bodies, they felt a chill. A feeling of being as insignificant as ants spontaneously arose from the bottom of their hearts. Over-God experts were peerless figures in the myriad of heavens and realms. Any one of them was an overlord or a giant of a region. How long had it been since they had felt this humble feeling? At this moment, almost everyone had given up the thought of resisting. One could imagine, how could an ant have the courage to resist when facing the heavens? The Golden Rainbow King's world spirit suddenly spoke from the depths of Su Fang's inner world. Jiang Taijie? This name is somewhat familiar. I remember now. I once entered an ancient tomb and saw this name in the notes left behind by the tomb's owner. Golden Rainbow King, I didn't expect you to be not only a bandit, but also a grave robber. I was forced to make a living at that time. You'd better think about how to deal with this big guy that has existed for who knows how many years. You actually have the mood to laugh at me. The Golden Rainbow King coughed. You know this person? Of course. Back in my days, this Jiang Taijie was not an ordinary person. He was a supreme existence that surpassed the ancient times. Moreover, he was in the same line as me. Su Fang was shocked and stunned. This young venerable sovereign is also a bandit? Being a bandit is free and unrestrained. The world is vast, and you can roam freely. What's wrong with that? The Golden Rainbow King was very dissatisfied. Then, he couldn't help but exclaim, this Jiang Taijie is not an ordinary bandit. He is one of the 7 great bandits that existed since the ancient times. You should just surrender to such a powerful existence. You are no match for him. Surrender to him? Su Fang scoffed. Weren't the 7 great bandits suppressed in the divine prison of law? Now is not the same as back then. It is still difficult for him to defy the heavens. At this moment, Jiang Taijie retracted his divine might and said indifferently, I'll give you a chance. Submit to me and become my slaves. Not only can I let you live, but I can also help you reach the highest peak of the world and even obtain eternal life. Those cultivators were already shaken by Jiang Taijie's pressure. Now that they heard Jiang Taijie's bewitching words, all of them were tempted. QL11 Su Fang suddenly sneered. You want us to rely on you, one of the 7 great bandits? Isn't that ridiculous? 7 great bandits? Many cultivators looked at each other. The young venerable sovereign was surprised. You actually know this emperor's origin? That's good. I don't have to waste my breath. Since you know this emperor's past, you should know that I'm not an ordinary bandit. I'm a supreme existence that plunders the heavenly Tao. If you follow me, you can all become supreme, venerable sovereigns. The G People's 2nd Grandmaster said decisively, I'm willing to submit to venerable sovereign. I'll follow venerable sovereign and serve venerable sovereign. Some people were still hesitating. Some cultivators who were shackled in the prison shouted loudly, we're willing to submit to venerable sovereign. Now, even peerless sovereigns like the great elder of the punishment hall and Yi Ling started to waver. Su Fang's divine light swept over the G People's 2nd Grandmaster. He sneered, you really want to rely on this person? The G People's 2nd Grandmaster sneered. It's my great honor to become the slave of a venerable sovereign. Do you want me to rely on a mere Tao fusing cultivator like you? That's called a great humiliation. The other sovereigns became more and more hesitant. Il Woyang said to Yi Ling, Great Elder, why don't we? Things aren't that simple. Don't be impatient. As expected of an expert from the Yi clan who was only one step away from becoming a venerable sovereign, he could already tell that something was wrong with Jiang Taijie. The Buddha of Fortune sneered. Obviously, he wasn't moved by Jiang Taijie's words at all. Buddhist cultivators were indeed different. Their Buddhist hearts were far stronger than cultivators who cultivated other great Taos. They wouldn't be easily shaken. Su Fang continued to say to the G People's 2nd Grandmaster, this person is a resurrected expert. Do you plan to rely on a resurrected expert? You G People are in cahoots with the Devil Clan. It's not strange for you to rely on a venerable sovereign now. A resurrected expert? This peerless venerable sovereign is actually a resurrected expert. Everyone's divine light changed instantly as they exclaimed, How can you see my true face? Jiang Taijie's eyes surged with a vicious aura. An evil aura flashed by. This was equivalent to admitting that he was a resurrected expert. Everyone's expression changed drastically. The G people's second Grandmaster's face turned ashen. For power and status, the G people could trade with the Devil Clan and obtain benefits from them. However, relying on a resurrected expert was equivalent to handing over one's life. Cultivators sought eternal immortality. Who would be willing to turn into an ice-cold corpse? In that case, he might as well die. Jiang Taijia laughed maniacally and said, "It seems that you still have a lot of prejudice against me and the resurrected experts. However, it doesn't matter. It won't be long before the heavens and earth change owners. Not only the heavens and earth, but every corner of the heavens and earth will become a world of resurrected experts. If you rely on me now, you will all be peerless, venerable sovereigns in the future. You might even follow the supreme evil god and transcend this heavens and earth." Su Fong snorted. "I didn't expect that the resurrected venerable sovereigns would not only retain their consciousness, but also have dreams. Furthermore, they are daydreaming. Since you're so stubborn, there's no need for you to exist." Jiang Taijia finally shed all pretense of cordiality. He no longer tempted them. With a wave of his hand, he formed a seal. In an instant, the power of the Prison Suppression Codex was activated by Jiang Taijia. Chains of order and shocking destructive thunder surged out from all directions, enveloping Su Fong, the Master Gods, and the Tao integration experts. Such terrifying divine power, although not at the level of a supreme venerable sovereign, was enough to suppress any god below the venerable sovereign level in the Prison Suppression Codex. Even venerable sovereigns would be shackled here. My guess was right. Su Fong was not only not shocked, but his eyes were shining brightly. Why was that? Jiang Taijia had only appeared as a clone formed by taking over Luo Xingtian's body. It was not his true body. It was not strange that he could not display the strength of a venerable sovereign. What surprised Su Fong was that Jiang Taijia did not display the evil power of resurrected experts. Instead, he used the power of the Prison Suppression Codex. This also meant that he could not display the power of resurrecting experts in the Prison Suppression Codex's divine artifact. The Prison Suppression Codex was a supreme divine artifact that specialized in suppressing all powerful existences that defied the heavenly Tao. Once the evil power was displayed, it would be suppressed by the power of the Prison Suppression Codex. Unless Jiang Taijia's true body merged the entire Prison Suppression Codex and corrupted it, turning it into an evil divine artifact of heaven's law, it was obviously impossible in a short period of time. Inferring from this, the possibility of escaping the Prison Suppression Codex was much greater than previously expected. However, I have to use the most powerful means to deal with it now. Although Su Fong was delighted, he did not dare to relax or be careless. After all, he was facing an extremely powerful existence at this moment. He had to fight to the death. He integrated all the power of his physical body, primordial spirit, and so on into the heaven and earth Tao palace. His true body disappeared. The divine power of the yin-yang world spread out and quickly turned into a real universe, enveloping the master gods and Tao integration experts, as well as most of the cultivators shackled in the cage. Boom, boom, boom. Su Fong's world collided with the power of the Prison Suppression Codex. The surrounding formations shattered layer by layer. The cultivators who were not protected by Su Fong's world were instantly reduced to dust in the impact of the collision. The universe was rapidly suppressed, shrinking, and collapsing layer by layer. Although Su Fong's inner world was extraordinary, his cultivation level was still at the Tao integration realm after all. He was not even Master God. Compared to the power of a peak Master God, it was so insignificant. If Su Fong had not comprehended the supreme mystery of the heavenly Tao order and made his inner world more stable, the universe that he had transformed into would have collapsed in the instant of the collision, and he would be severely injured. However, Su Fong did not plan to use this to fight against a terrifying existence that was equivalent to a peak Master God. He only used this to buy himself a moment of time. Just as the world collapsed layer by layer, Su Fong condensed in the universe. He reached out, and the Origin Sacred Mirror appeared in his hand. Jiang Taijia looked through Su Fong's senior sister and saw the Origin Sacred Mirror in Su Fong's hand. His expression changed instantly. That's... Senior sister, help me. A Yang spirit entered the central space of the mirror, along with the Yang Qi. The Origin Sacred Mirror was indeed a supreme Dharma treasure that was superior to any divine weapon. Even the Prison Suppression Codex could not stop Su Fong and Shu Wanjin from communicating through the Origin Sacred Mirror. Shu Wanjin, who had already arrived at the central space of the mirror through the Black Mirror, used the Yin-Yang transformation seal with Su Fong at the same time to activate the array formation inside the mirror. That's really the Origin Sacred Mirror? Impossible. How could the Origin Sacred Mirror fall into the hands of a mere Tao integration cultivator like you? With your meager strength, how could you possibly activate such a supreme divine artifact? Jiang Taijia did not expect to recognize the Origin Sacred Mirror. When he saw the surging yin-yang vortex on the surface of the Origin Sacred Mirror, he immediately exclaimed. Before the Origin Sacred Mirror's power erupted, its terrifying aura caused the entire space within the Prison Suppression Codex to tremble violently. Chapter 2308. Su Fong took the opportunity to take back the world and recondense it into his original form. The over-gods and other cultivators that were enveloped in the world were all taken back into his body. At this moment, a terrifying divine power that could destroy heaven and earth erupted from the Origin Sacred Mirror. The Origin Sacred Mirror is a supreme divine artifact of a heavenly venerable. Even I can't resist it. Damn it! Jiang Taiji's face was full of panic. He retreated quickly and was about to pass through the array formation. The Origin Sacred Mirror erupted with a terrifying divine power that could reverse the heavenly Tao and transform all things. It instantly enveloped Jiang Taijia. Qi, qi, qi. Jiang Taijia and the surrounding array formation quickly shattered and turned into nothingness, returning to their original state. The Origin Sacred Mirror was so extraordinary. When Su Fong and Shu Wanjin used the yin-yang transformation to activate it, even the Prison Suppressing Codex trembled. Even the internal space began to collapse. I am an eternal supreme existence. Although the Origin Sacred Mirror is powerful, you, a mere Tao integration cultivator, can't activate its full power. Don't even think about suppressing me. Jiang Taijia roared. From the space of the Suppressing Hell Codex, a shocking divine might swept out. It actually passed through the divine might of the Origin Sacred Mirror and wrapped around Jiang Taijia. Then, it forcefully pulled him out of the divine might of the Origin Sacred Mirror and disappeared into the vast array around him. It was obvious that Jiang Taijia's original body had activated the power of the Prison Suppressing Codex at all costs to save this clone that had taken over Luo Xingtian's body. However, the terrifying power of the Origin Sacred Mirror had also severely injured Jiang Taijia's clone. He had suffered a great loss this time. It's a pity that I couldn't kill Jiang Taijia. This is troublesome. Su Fong put away the Origin Sacred Mirror and felt a sense of regret. Jiang Taijia's clone had merged the bloodlines of Luo Xingtian and Luo Yunxian, so it could activate the power of the Prison Suppressing Codex. If he killed it, it would be equivalent to crippling more than half of Jiang Taijia's strength. It would be much easier to deal with his original body. As soon as Su Fong put the mirror into his body, he immediately staggered and swayed. His god body was much thinner. He looked as thin as a twig. His face was old and his hair was white. His aura was dispirited. His face even had the death spots that only a dying man would have. He looked like an old man who was about to die. The price we paid this time is too heavy. Trembling, he sat down cross-legged. He reluctantly took out a dozen or so Good Fortune Saint pills and trembled as he put them into his mouth. He looked incomparably weak, as if an ordinary person could kill him. Shu Wanjin's weak voice came along with the cold air. Su Fong, you're about to step into the 8th transformation. You and I work together to activate the Origin Sacred Mirror. Although it consumed a lot of energy, it shouldn't be to this extent, right? Su Fong chuckled. Senior Marshal's sister, don't worry. I have a brilliant plan. With my current strength, I can only work with you to activate the Origin Sacred Mirror once, and I'm blocked by the Prison Suppression Codex. Using the Origin Sacred Mirror to communicate with you is several times more draining than before. You'll have to rely on yourself for the rest. I won't be able to help you with anything else. Shu Wanjin sighed, and her voice gradually faded away. Within the world within Su Fong's body, the experts who had been sucked into the world within his body were all dumbfounded. It was as if countless thunderbolts were rumbling in their heads. Who is this Yin-Yang Godlord? He actually has the ability to kill a peak over God. No, that Jiang Taijia's strength is almost beyond that of a peak over God. What's the origin of that divine artifact called the Origin Sacred Mirror? How can it possess such astonishing power? The peerless over-gods who had been freed from their shackles secretly communicated with one another. They were all trying to guess Su Fong's identity. At the same time, they were all shocked and astonished by Su Fong's strength. Il Woyang hesitated for a moment before sending a secret message to the expert of the Yi clan, Yiling. The world that the Yin-Yang God Lord used is extremely similar to Su Fong's. Moreover, after Su Fong entered the divine prison of law, he never appeared again. I suspect Yiling was greatly shocked. You're saying that the Yin-Yang God Lord is most likely Su Fong? Then, he shook his head and rejected this speculation. Impossible. Although Su Fong is the #1 genius of Yuan Tiangong and cultivates the supreme heavenly Tao and has even formed a small world within his body, allowing him to fight against ordinary overgods. No matter how heaven-defying he is, how can he be so heaven-defying? Il Woyang found it rather difficult to conclude. Logically speaking, it's impossible for Su Fong to possess such strength. It's also impossible for him to use such a supreme divine artifact. After pondering for a moment, Il Woyang continued, Grand Elder, what kind of divine artifact is the Origin Sacred Mirror? It can even suppress Jiang Taijia. If we take it— Shut up, Yiling interrupted Il Woyang. We'll talk about this after we leave the Prison Suppressing Codex. Everyone, quickly enter my natal magic treasure. Jiang Taijia will return at any moment. Su Fong transmitted his thoughts. The voice of his Yuan spirit rang out in the minds of the overgods and Tao integration experts who had been freed from their shackles. Then, a magic treasure in the shape of a pagoda flew out from the depths of his inner world. The aura of this pagoda was extraordinary. Just like the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda, it had a total of 6 floors. Each floor was blooming with a different color of Xianguang. A mysterious aura of creation lingered around the pagoda. This is the Yin-Yang God Lord's natal magic treasure. It actually has the aura of creation. In the future, it will evolve into a supreme creation divine artifact. Extraordinary! The Yin-Yang God Lord is indeed extraordinary. Everyone exclaimed in surprise, and some even felt greedy. Every single overgod was extraordinary. Most of them possessed a Destiny God artifact, but none of them possessed a Destiny God artifact like the tower before them. Don't resist. All of you, enter the space of the pagoda. Swish! Swish! The doors open one by one and unleash their might, sucking all the overgods and experts into the space within the tower. Even the second patriarch of the G people, who had not been freed from the shackles of the Prison Suppressing Codex, and the other rescued cultivators, were all sucked into other spaces within the pagoda by Su Fong. This was mainly to prevent the second patriarch of the G people from causing trouble. Although the possibility of that happening was not high, Su Fong still did not dare to be careless. The second patriarch of the G people fell into complete despair. This was equivalent to falling into Su Fong's control. His life and death were at the mercy of Su Fong. After doing all this, Su Fong reluctantly sat down in the space within the Prison Suppressing Codex. Looking at the vast space in the depths of the array formation, Su Fong's eyes were filled with worry. He muttered to himself, such heavy injuries and exhaustion. Fortunately, Jiang Taijia was scared away. Otherwise, whoosh! A figure shuttled out of the array formation within the prison suppressing codex. It was Jiang Taijia, who had returned. He had been injured by the divine power of the primordial chaos, sacred mirror, and was now in a severely injured state. His handsome face was shrouded in a layer of gray. His body was full of injuries from the yin and yang divine power released by the primordial chaos, sacred mirror. It would be difficult for him to recover in a short period of time. He looked extremely miserable. However, his eyes were filled with pride as he looked at Su Fang. Low-level existence. Although you have the primordial chaos, sacred mirror, it's a pity that your strength is too weak. You can only activate it once at most. Let's see how arrogant you can be next. Then, he revealed a look of surprise and joy. I have to thank you for sending the primordial chaos, sacred mirror to me. With such a supreme divine artifact, I can dominate the entire world. Who could be my match? When the time comes, I will go to the celestial venerable mountain and release the supreme evil god. I will definitely be heavily rewarded. The primordial chaos sacred mirror is a divine artifact used by celestial venerables. Su Fang asked weakly. Jiang Taijia shouted domineeringly. You have the wrong idea if you want to get information from me. Besides, I don't know much about the primordial chaos sacred mirror. The only thing you can do now is despair and anger. It's not the time to despair yet. Su Fang flipped his palm and took out the god-slaying saber. However, his strength was almost exhausted. He couldn't even hold the god-slaying saber tightly. He was even inferior to a mortal martial artist, let alone activate a divine artifact. Jiang Taijia was very proud. Obediently take out the primordial chaos sacred mirror. Then, I will devour your life bit by bit. I will let you know what kind of punishment you will receive for disobeying me. With that, he took a step towards Su Fang and casually grabbed. A divine power quickly enveloped Su Fang. The blood energy in Su Fang's body surged out uncontrollably. Even the primordial chaos sacred mirror in the heaven and earth Tao palace trembled and was about to fly out of his body. Bang! A fierce murderous aura suddenly flashed in Su Fang's eyes, and the dispirited state of his body was swept away. At this moment, Su Fang was activating his natal Dharma treasure in his body, revealing his natal state. The six-story pagoda was filled with the aura of creation. It was very similar to the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, but its abilities were different. Its power was far from what the previous Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda could compare to. QL 11 tut tut tut. Layers of pagoda doors rapidly opened in his body. The divine power immediately escaped into Su Fang's flesh and blood, as well as the divine power of the yin-yang world. Inside the pagoda, the Punishment Hall Grand Elder, the Black-Robed Elder, and the other Lord Gods, as well as more than 20 Tao integration experts, all released their dermic powers and energy into the pagoda. This feeling is really shocking and powerful. The power from these experts first entered the pagoda. Then, it merged with the pagoda and quickly seeped into Su Fang's body and heaven and earth Tao palace. It was completed in a flash. Su Fang's eyes shone brightly. Such a natal Dharma treasure is 10 times more powerful than the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. It can even merge with the divine essence of a peerless Lord God and even various great Taos and laws, turning them into power that I can control. Good. With such a natal Dharma treasure, my strength will skyrocket. Who can stop me from ascending to the peak? Now, Su Fang had the power of 4 peerless Lord Gods and more than 20 Tao integration experts. He had surpassed the original 6th heaven of Tao integration and rapidly surpassed the Tao integration realm, reaching the limit of the Lord God realm. This was the terrifying power of a natal Dharma treasure. It was also the supreme strength that Su Fang had brought after tens of thousands of years of merging and improvement. Su Fang shouted domineeringly. The god-slaying saber was activated, and a shocking saber light swept out. You're just a Tao integration ant. How can you suddenly have such shocking strength? Jiang Taijie was caught off guard and was cut in half by the saber light. His divine body was turned into pieces in the terrifying murderous aura. Even his yang spirit could not escape in time. Chapter 2309. My doppelganger. Despicable, truly despicable. Without this doppelganger, it means that it will be difficult for me to fuse with the Prison Suppression Codex and escape the shackles of the Prison Suppression Codex. You lowly ant, I will definitely suppress you, pull out your tendons, skin you, and then sacrifice you to the evil god. You will struggle in the sea of bitterness for eternity. Jiang Taijie's roar came from the surrounding formation like a tide. The space within the Prison Suppression Codex trembled under the roar. Su Fong revealed a domineering smile. Jiang Taijie, I'm afraid you're at your wit's end now, aren't you? Even if you didn't come to me, I would have gone to the central space of the Prison Suppression Codex to look for you. Don't be so smug. Do you think you can escape from the Prison Suppression Codex just because you destroyed one of my doppelganger? Not only you and those ant-like cultivators, but the entire universe will be buried by my own hands. Jiang Taijie's voice that was filled with evil gradually drifted further and further away in the array formation space before finally disappearing without a trace. It seems that this revived Dizun has even more powerful means. I have to get rid of him as soon as possible and then find a way to leave the Prison Suppression Codex. However, my current situation, after sensing his divine body inside and outside, Su Fong could not help but smile bitterly. Previously, in order to lure and kill Jiang Taijie's doppelganger, Su Fong pretended to be seriously injured. Now, his disguise was slightly better, but it was not much better. The most important thing was that after the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace transformed into the universe, it had collided with Jiang Taijie and almost collapsed. It could not be restored to its previous peak state just by restoring the power of the yin-yang world. There was also the natal dharma treasure. This pagoda-shaped natal dharma treasure was the fusion of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda and the natal dharma treasure. It had not been completely nurtured. This time, Su Fong used the natal dharma treasure to fuse with 4 lord powerhouses. Furthermore, they were all powerful upper-rank lords. One could imagine the pressure the natal dharma treasure was under. Although it did not collapse, there were already many cracks in the internal formation and the body of the pagoda. It needs a long time to nurture it. It also needs the 6 natural spiritual items of heaven and earth to continuously recover before the natal dharma treasure can continue to be used. Su Fong felt a burst of pain in his heart. The damage to his natal magic treasure was the same as his own injuries. There was no difference. However, the new life-bound magic treasure was far more powerful than the mysterious Yellow Six Paths Pagoda. There were also some abilities that the mysterious Yellow Six Paths Pagoda did not have before. This natal dharma treasure is still called Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. Next, I'll have to suppress more experts and great demons to serve as the great commanders and minor commanders of the Black and Yellow Six Paths. The Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda had followed Su Fong from the pocket world until now. Su Fong was extremely attached to it. Although it had fused into a new natal dharma treasure, Su Fong still named it Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. He took out the pagoda divine artifact and entered the internal space of the natal dharma treasure. Su Fong still looked like a heroic middle-aged man. Therefore, only his true body could enter the natal dharma treasure. If he used his sun spirit, his identity would be exposed. Su Fong was now secretly glad that he had the foresight to disguise himself. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable if the Origin Sacred Mirror was exposed. He could not suppress all these Supreme Lords. The main reason was that he did not have the strength. Even with the help of the new Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, it would be difficult to suppress so many lords. With their strength, it would not be difficult for them to break through the internal space of the natal dharma treasure. Mighty is the Yin-Yang God Lord. You can even kill a half-step sovereign expert. I admire you, Yin-Yang God Lord. The great elder of Punishment Hall, the black-robed elder, the Buddha of good fortune, and the Yi-Clan expert, Yi Ling, all cupped their fists at Su Fong, their eyes full of reverence. Chu Bingyan, Qian Gang, and the other Yuan Tiangong geniuses all looked at him with eyes full of admiration and reverence. Those Tao integration experts looked at Su Fong as if they were facing a supreme lord. They were even stronger than a supreme lord. The great elder of Punishment Hall asked politely, "Yinyang God Lord, you killed Jiang Taijia's clone. His true body is clearly shackled by the prison suppressing codex. Can he leave the prison suppressing codex now?" Everyone looked at Su Fong. "I'm afraid things aren't that simple. Although you successfully killed Jiang Taijia's clone, it doesn't mean you're safe in the prison suppressing codex. We have to go to the central space of the prison suppressing codex. First, we have to find a way to kill Jiang Taijia's true body. Second, we have to find a way to fuse with the prison suppressing codex and master the hand seals to control it. Otherwise, it will be difficult to leave the prison suppressing codex." Su Fong's words greatly disappointed everyone. The divine prison of law was the supreme prison of the exalted celestial mountain, and the prison suppressing codex was the divine artifact that controlled the divine prison of law. Even a supreme sovereign might not be able to shatter the space of the prison suppressing codex from the inside, let alone a lord's strength. QL11 Su Fong continued in a low voice. "Jiang Taijia is a supreme, sovereign expert, and a revived one at that. It's impossible for him to only have these few tricks up his sleeve." The great elder of Punishment Hall and the others nodded. Su Fong continued, "It won't be that easy to kill him, and I can no longer use the powerful method I used to kill his clone. However, if we don't get rid of him, we can still escape. Therefore, I plan to enter the central space immediately after I recover. What do you all think? Yinyang God Lord, please let us out of your artifact space. We used up quite a lot of energy just now and need to recover." The Yuan Tiangong Great Elder of Punishment Hall said, deciding to leave Su Fong's artifact space. The E-Clan expert Yiling also said, "Your Excellency's artifact seems to have been damaged quite a bit and needs to recover as well. It's very inconvenient for us to stay here." These people were clearly wary of Su Fong. After all, they were in Su Fong's artifact space and were under Su Fong's control, which made them feel uneasy. Moreover, Yiling and Il Woyang had fought with Su Fong in the Divine Prison of Law's main hall before, so they were naturally wary of Su Fong. In fact, their fear was not without reason. Su Fong was definitely not a kind person. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't suppress all of them with his strength, Su Fong would have taken them all in as his subordinates without hesitation, especially Yiling and Il Woyang. Su Fong had long wanted to kill them. If he had the chance, he wouldn't mind getting rid of the two of them. Su Fong naturally understood their thoughts, but he didn't expose them. A Tao Integration Realm elder suddenly said, "I'm Lord Huadong, an itinerant cultivator. In the past, I had some fame in the myriad of worlds. I'm willing to submit to the Yin-Yang God Lord. Please accept me." Lord Huadong, Su Fong fixed his eyes on it. This was an expert at the peak of the Tao Integration Realm. In the myriad of worlds, he could definitely be considered an overlord, but he was an itinerant cultivator. He didn't expect that such a peerless expert would take the initiative to submit to him. This made Su Fong very surprised. The Golden Rainbow Monarch's voice came from the depths of his body. "This old guy isn't stupid. He's a big shot in the outside world, but in the prison suppressing codex, he's less than an ant. He could die at any time. Only by following you can he have a chance to live. How could he miss this opportunity?" Following this, more than a dozen Tao Integration Realm experts expressed their willingness to submit to Su Fong. Then, Su Fong released the 4 peerless God Lords, Chu Bingyin, and the other Yuan Tiangong geniuses, as well as more than a dozen Tao Integration Realm experts who didn't want to submit to him from the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda. However, Su Fong didn't release the Ji people's second forefather and those cultivators who were rescued by Su Fong. Su Fong had a great enmity with the Ji people. Now that the Ji people's second forefather was under his control, how could he let him go so easily? As for those experts who were still shackled, Su Fong didn't plan to release them either. There were more than 2,000 experts. Among them, there were more than 300 Tao Integration Realm experts. How could Su Fong let go of this opportunity to subdue these experts? With so many experts, Su Fong could establish a powerful force in the myriad of worlds. Next, Su Fong seized the time to recover. First, he used the power of the heavenly Tao order to create an array formation inside the prison suppressing codex to isolate the surroundings. Then, he separated the array formation into several independent array spaces. Then, he moved the more than a dozen experts from the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, including Huadong Jun, a total of 17 late-stage Tao integration realm experts, out of their life-bound magic treasures. Everyone, Su Fong's eyes flashed with a domineering luster as his gaze swept past the 17 experts. The 17 experts, including Huadong Jun, felt a chill in their hearts. They felt as if they were facing a supreme overlord. Su Fong said majestically, "Although you're willing to submit to me, I have no choice but to imprison your primordial spirits and spiritual abodes to prevent you from making any unwise moves in the future." Some of the experts looked hesitant. "I know what you're hesitating about. You're just worried that I'll use you as cannon fodder in the future. After I imprison you, I'll naturally tell you my true identity. In addition, I'll also promise you that I'll never be stingy with resources to the experts under my command. I'll also never treat them as cannon fodder. If you don't agree, you can choose to leave now. I won't stop you. However, I have to remind you that with your strength inside the prison-suppressing codex, the only outcome is death." Su Fong's words caused the experts' expressions to change slightly. Huadong Jun no longer hesitated and cupped his fists. "Since Master has said so, I'll leave everything to the Master God." The other experts also expressed their willingness to submit. "That's good. I guarantee that becoming my subordinates will be a turning point in your lives." Su Fong immediately used the power of the Chaos Sacred Realm as the source and fused it with his own power to form a special seal. After the 17 experts released their primordial spirits, he immediately cast the seal in their primordial spirits and also injected the power of the other shackles into their bodies. In this way, Su Fong no longer had to worry about a rebellion. "Everyone, it's time to let you know my true identity." Su Fong used the aura of the fruit of sin, and a layer of human skin immediately fell off from his divine body, revealing his original appearance. Chapter 23:10. Su Fong, Huadong Jun, and the other 17 newly recruited subordinates were all deeply shocked. The number one prodigy of the Yuan Tiangong, the peerless existence of the imperial people, personally conferred the title of Holy Son. Su Fong's name had long since spread to every small world in the universe. How could these subordinates not know of Su Fong? Unexpectedly, the Yin Yang God Lord was actually Su Fong. Even more unexpectedly, Su Fong was far more powerful than the rumors said. He could even kill peerless existences at the peak of the Overgod realm. Of course, this was also because Su Fong had grasped the power of the heavenly Tao order within the prison-suppressing codex, which highlighted his strength. Even so, such a battle record was truly astonishing. A supremacy who had cultivated for less than 1,000,000 years already possessed such terrifying strength. What kind of astonishing existence would he become in another 10 million years or an epoch? These subordinates found it hard to imagine. What made these subordinates wild with joy was that not only did the legendary Su Fong have the greatest talent and strength in the Yuan Tiangong, but he was also always generous to his subordinates. For the sake of his subordinates, he did not hesitate to clash with the colossus of the Luo clan. How could Huadong Jun and the others not be pleasantly surprised to have such a supremacy? At this moment, their only thought was that they had encountered a great fortune and opportunity that they had never encountered in their lives. Then, Su Fong rolled out one Xinguang after another, distributing pills and resources to his subordinates. These elixirs and resources were all ancient elixirs and resources that Su Fong had obtained from the punishment hall in the divine prison of Heaven's Law. They were rich with the aura of time and were of great help to the cultivation of these Tao fusing experts. In addition, Su Fong also took out heaven responding pills. Each of them received 2 pills. Any more would be meaningless. Then, Su Fong formed a seal with his hands. Seeds of the power of the heavenly Tao order instantly formed and were given to his subordinates to cultivate. With these seeds, the shackles they faced in the prison suppressing codex would be greatly reduced. Their cultivation speed would also be much faster. This one must thank Master. Hua Dongjun cupped his fist at Su Fong and said sincerely, "We are all rogue cultivators. In the eyes of ordinary true gods, we are all high and mighty experts. However, how would they know that we don't have any background to rely on? Neither are we willing to become the slaves of those super forces and clans. Living in the divine world, we have to endure the coldness and warmth of the human world. We have seen all the rules of the human world. Who would have thought that Master would treat us like this?" The other experts also looked at Su Fong gratefully. Cultivate diligently. This king hopes that you can quickly grow into a master god, or even an emperor. However, the most important thing right now is to quickly recover, get through this crisis together, and kill our way out of the inner space of the prison suppression codex. Su Fong said embarrassedly. Then, he sent everyone to an independent array space to cultivate. "Brat, I didn't expect you to be so good at buying people's hearts. You managed to make so many experts unswervingly loyal to you all of a sudden." The Golden Rainbow King spoke from the depths of his inner world. "I'm just exchanging my heart for yours. It's not like I'm buying people's hearts." Su Fong said indifferently. He sat cross-legged in the array and took out pills, spiritual items, and blood crystals. He used his physical body to recover the life force and the power of the yin-yang world that he had consumed. In his current state, he couldn't use the heaven underworld to devour resources to recover. In the inner space of the prison suppression codex, he couldn't create a time array to cultivate. Naturally, the speed of his recovery was very slow. However, the so-called slow speed was naturally relative. In Su Fong's current state, if he was an ordinary true god, even if he didn't lack various pills, spiritual items, and other resources, he would need hundreds of thousands or even millions of years to recover. About 100 years later, Su Fong finally recovered a little. At this time, he formed a seal and collapsed his physical body layer by layer, transforming into the heaven underworld state. In this way, his recovery speed was more than 10 times faster. In the blood water, the flame of life gradually ignited, and the area was constantly expanding. Su Fong began to condense his physical body in the blood water. He reached out and grabbed, and the rainbow stone lotus appeared in his hand. "Rainbow stone lotus, oh rainbow stone lotus. I hope you can help me successfully condense the 72nd yang meridian in the prison suppressing codex and step into the 8th transformation. That way, I will have a greater chance of killing Jiang Taijia's true body and escaping the prison suppressing codex." It turned out that Su Fong was preparing to fuse with the rainbow stone lotus and attempt to condense the 72nd yang meridian. The stone lotus that emitted a rainbow brilliance was like the manifestation of the heavenly Tao's laws and order. It contained the heavenly Tao's origin power of order. This power naturally shackled and restrained the world. The operation and evolution of the heavenly Tao couldn't be separated from the power of order. Su Fong stripped his blood essence, consciousness, and the power of the yin-yang world and seeped into the rainbow stone lotus. Unexpectedly, the rainbow stone lotus was nearly unshakable. If not for Su Fong's profound understanding of the heavenly Tao's order profundities, and the fact that the rainbow stone lotus was placed in the chaos divine mirror's internal space and fused with the mirror's aura, even his blood wouldn't have been able to seep into it. The rainbow stone lotus absorbed the matter and power of the Sin Garden and condensed after countless years of precipitation. How could it be so easy to fuse with it? Back when he fused with the golden lotus stone flower, it was difficult for him to fuse with it easily. He had to borrow the power of the heavenly tribulation to barely fuse with it. The golden lotus stone flower was the world fragment of a small world, let alone the rainbow stone lotus that contained the heavenly Tao's origin power of order. Such a treasure, because no deity could fuse with it at all, If not for Su Fang's various special abilities, he wouldn't even think about it. Left with no choice, Su Fang could only be patient and grind it bit by bit. Just as Su Fang was cultivating and recovering, those overgod experts and the dozen or so cultivators were also in the internal space of the prison suppressing codex. Some were cultivating and recovering, while others were looking for a way out. Ling searched the internal space of the formation once, and finally returned with a gloomy face. Il Woyang secretly sent a voice transmission. "Grand Elder, how is it?" Ling snorted. "At the end of the formation space is an extremely powerful barrier. With my strength, it's hard to break through the barrier. There's no way out at all." "Then what should we do?" Il Woyang immediately panicked. "From the looks of it now, we can only rely on that Yin-Yang Godlord. There's another way, and that is to try to kill him and seize that supreme divine artifact called the Origin Sacred Mirror. Perhaps there's still a chance to escape from the prison suppressing codex." Yiling's deep eyes exuded coldness, causing Il Woyang to involuntarily shiver. "Let's wait and see first. It's best to wait until both Yin-Yang Godlord and Jiang Taiji's original body are injured before I take action to seize the Origin Sacred Mirror. I've arranged for you to subdue those dozen or so experts. How's it going? A total of 9 experts have agreed to join my clan, but these experts' strength is ordinary, and they won't be of much use. Let's keep these people first. When the time comes, they can be used as cannon fodder." Grand Elder is wise. In the chaotic area formed after the divine prison of Heaven's Law shattered, Ash and Flame Sea and Su Fang's guards all stayed outside, clinging to a sliver of hope that a miracle would happen. There were also many cultivators who stayed outside, and many experts had arrived, including those from Yuan Tiangong's Punishment Hall, Clan, Sanskrit, Luo Clan, and other super factions. Just as everyone was paying attention to the chaotic area, 2 figures quietly appeared in the sky above the Origin Sacred Mirror. These 2 figures were concealed by a supreme divine power. Not only those ordinary cultivators, but even some venerable sovereigns who were paying attention to this area from time to time did not discover their existence. One of the black-clothed women was Goddess Luo. Su Fang had encountered such a major incident in the divine prison of Heaven's Law, and no one knew whether he was dead or alive. How could she not be concerned? After the news of the strange changes in the divine prison of Heaven's Law reached Yuan Tiangong, Goddess Luo and Xuanqin agreed that Xuanqin would stay behind to oversee the Fang Tianjie in order to prevent someone from taking advantage of the situation to harm Su Fang's family like last time. Goddess Luo came to the periphery of the divine palace of Advent, and she was not alone. There was an old man with her. This old man was dressed in a simple gray robe. He had a head of snow-white hair, and even his eyebrows and beard were as white as snow. His face was full of wrinkles, and his eyes were cloudy. He looked like a muddle-headed old man. "Godfather, please save me this time, no matter what," Goddess Luo pleaded bitterly. Clearly, this was not the first time she had pleaded with this old man. There was a long silence. The gray-robed old man sighed and said, "Girl, I've repeatedly warned you not to get involved with the karma of fate in this universe. In the end, Fine, I'll help you this time. However, after I help you this time, it means that you and Su Fang have settled your karma. From then on, you'll be strangers. Are you willing to agree?" Goddess Luo bit her lips so hard that blood seeped out. When the gray-robed old man said that they would be strangers from now on, it was definitely not something he said casually. He wanted to use a supreme divine power to sever the fate connection between her and Su Fang. Even if they met in the future, they would be strangers. The life that happened in the illusion of the disillusionment heart-killing mirror, as well as the scenes that happened after, flashed across Goddess Luo's mind. QL 11-inch, I'll agree, Godfather. Goddess Luo closed her eyes as tears rolled down from the corners of her eyes. You should have done this long ago. The gray-robed old man formed an extremely profound hand seal with his hands, and the scene of the chaotic region below was reflected in his eyes. Then, there was a series of changes, and an unfathomable and transcendent divine might flashed, landing in the chaotic region. The scenes of the chaotic region kept changing in his eyes, from the chaotic matter and airflow on the surface to the chaotic energy movement in the deeper depths and even the ethereal secrets of heaven. Everything appeared mysteriously in his eyes. The old man's hair gradually turned from snow white to gray-white, and his face also turned from old to younger. Becoming younger seemed to be a great harm to the old man. His body trembled slightly, and beads of sweat kept seeping out of his forehead. Furthermore, the old man's exhaustion was not from using divine might, but from nature. He felt that the entire heavenly Tao was rejecting him, trying to expel him from this world. At this moment, he was resisting the entire world with his own strength. The old man suddenly exclaimed. Goddess Luo was nervous. Godfather, what happened? Although it was only a small step from the sixth heaven to the seventh heaven, the significance was extraordinary. It meant that Su Fong had advanced from the mid-stage to the late-stage Tao integration realm. Su Fong heaved a long sigh of relief and continued to swallow pills to restore his empty body. Next, he had to reach the normal state of the seventh layer of heaven as soon as possible and then enter the central space. Suddenly, an incomparably transcendent divine might actually penetrated through the layers of formations of the suppressing prison codex. The formations created by Su Fong were also rendered useless as they suddenly descended. Su Fong was astounded. Who is this person? How could he possess such terrifying divine might? Fortunately, it's not Jiang Taijia. His divine might must contain the aura of death. At this moment, a primordial spirit appeared along with the divine might. It quickly condensed into a lifelike primordial spirit shadow that belonged to Goddess Luo. Su Fong was shocked and stunned. Goddess, how could it be you? Goddess Luo's primordial spirit shadow revealed an anxious expression. Su Fong, the matter is urgent, and time is of the essence. My godfather's divine might cannot be maintained for long. I have to make it short. Your godfather? Su Fong realized that the matter was very serious. Goddess Luo's origin was mysterious. Her godfather must be a transcendent being. Now that his divine might had descended into the interior of the suppressing prison codex, it could be seen how terrifying his strength was. It was completely beyond Su Fong's imagination. Even a venerable Arch could not do it. Su Fong, someone broke the divine prison of heaven's law and turned the suppressing prison codex into nothingness, merging it into the ethereal heavenly Tao. Now, no one can save you from a suppressing prison codex, not even a venerable Arch, unless a heavenly venerable takes action personally. Merging the suppressing prison codex into the heavenly Tao, Su Fong was dumbfounded. His mind was in a mess. This was completely beyond his scope of understanding. At this moment, a calm and old voice sounded from the divine might. Kid, quickly tell me what happened in the divine prison of heaven's law. Su Fong knew that this person was Goddess Luo's godfather. He did not dare to hesitate and immediately told him everything that had happened, except for the origin sacred mirror. I see. The old man snorted coldly. Senior, may I ask what exactly happened? What scheme does Jiang Taijia have? The resurrected venerable Arch, called Jiang Taijia, merged the suppressing prison codex into the heavenly Tao. He did not want to kill you, but he has a huge scheme. If I'm not wrong, his original body must have the heaven's supervising token. With the help of the Luo clan's bloodline, he has already merged with the heaven's supervising token. Otherwise, he would not have been able to break the divine prison of heaven's law. Next, he will use his evil power to corrupt the heaven supervising token. Su Fong asked in confusion, what's the use of him corrupting the heaven supervising token? The heaven supervising token is a supreme divine artifact that controls the order of the heavenly Tao. If he merges the heaven supervising token and then merges it with the heavenly Tao, it means that the entire order of the heavenly Tao will be corrupted and the order of the heavenly Tao will fall into chaos. When that time comes, There will no longer be any order in the heavens and the earth of the myriad worlds. Think about it. What kind of situation will that be? Hiss. Su Fong sucked in a cold breath. Although he still did not quite understand Jiang Taijia's methods, he understood one thing. Once Jiang Taijia succeeded, the order of the heavenly Tao would be corrupted, and the universe would fall into chaos. The consequences would be so serious that it exceeded Su Fong's imagination. The universe had changed continuously, and the heavenly Tao had been corrupted by evil power. It had already made it difficult for gods to advance, and it was even difficult for them to attract the chaotic divine tribulation. Jiang Taijia's use of the heaven supervising token to corrupt the order of the heavenly Tao was not an exaggeration. It was completely possible. That elder sneered. Good move. That descent is indeed a good move. So you have already buried such a chess piece in the divine prison of heaven. Impressive, truly impressive. Descent? Senior, what does the descent have to do with the descent divine palace? You don't need to know about this. Kid, listen well. You will definitely die this time. Actually, all the gods in this universe, and even all living things in this universe, are about to be destroyed. If you have any last words, quickly tell them to this girl, the elder said helplessly, and his voice gradually faded away. Goddess Luo hurriedly said, Foster father, please save Su Fong. After a moment of silence, the elder's voice sounded again. There's no way to save him. No one can reverse the heavenly Tao. Not only him, but this universe is also hopeless. Su Fong revealed a resolute expression. Senior, although I am weak, I know that I have to fight for any opportunity. As long as I'm still alive, I will not give up. Senior, please advise me on how to stop Jiang Taijia. The elder sighed. Your courage is commendable, but what's the use? Of course there's a way. You are just a Tao integration realm cultivator. It's impossible. Su Fong's spirit was lifted. Senior, please advise me. It's very simple. Go and kill Jiang Taijia's original body now. Can you do it? Not to mention that he is of the Arch. He did not hesitate to die and used his own death aura to corrupt the heaven supervising token. Not to mention you. Even the strongest of the imperial people can't stop him. Moreover, you don't have much time left. At most, in another 10,000 years, the prison suppressing codex will completely merge with the heavenly Tao. Everything in the prison suppressing codex will disappear into the heavenly Tao. The elder sighed, and then his voice disappeared without a trace. Su Fong also fell into silence. QL11 conflict, palpitations, and even despair. His heart was like dead ashes. The general trend was irreversible. All his previous efforts were in vain. Goddess Luo's essence, soul, also became illusory. She stared at Su Fong with misty eyes and said faintly, Su Fong, I will never regret being with you. Su Fong stretched out his hand and gently stroked the face of Goddess Luo's essence soul. I have no regrets either. This scene was shockingly similar to the final moment when the two of them died in the chaos and the disillusionment heart-killing mirror. Goddess Luo's essence, soul, gradually became illusory and finally disappeared into the space inside the prison, suppressing codex with the elder's divine might. Su Fong remained in place for a long time, from the small world to the great world, and then from the great world to the myriad worlds. The scenes that happened, everyone and everything that happened flashed through his mind. Gradually, his eyes were no longer confused. Instead, they became determined and revealed a sense of determination. From the small world to where I am now, I fell countless times and climbed up countless times. In the end, I surpassed the peak time after time to achieve what I have today. How many times have I faced a desperate situation? I didn't give up even though I knew that I would die. A moth knows that it will be burned alive if it flies into a flame, but it still doesn't turn back. A meteor flashes and disappears, but it still has to shine brilliantly before it dies. Am I, Su Fong, inferior to that moth and that meteor? Even if I'm going to die, I, Su Fong, will never give up. Like that moth and that meteor, I'll shine brilliantly for the last time. Su Fong's eyes were bright. The depression and despair from before were immediately swept away. His body suddenly rose from the blood water. The blood water and the blood sky rolled and gathered towards his body, quickly forming a physical body. Then he changed his appearance and aura with the human skin again. He put Lord Huadong and the other subordinates into his inner world and walked out of the array. Everyone, Su Fong slowly told the Grand Elder of the Punishment Hall and the other over-gods what was going to happen next. Those over-gods and a dozen other cultivators were all shocked and desperate. Some of them were doubtful. I'm going to the central space of the prison suppressing codex to find Jiang Taijie and fight him to the death. Those who are willing to follow me, follow me. Chapter 23:12. They all looked at Su Fong's back. Everyone fell silent. Even a peerless master god would feel despair in the face of death. The Buddha of creation suddenly burst into laughter. We're going to die anyway. Besides, we Buddhist cultivators have already seen through life and death. If we can fight a peerless sovereign before we die, our deaths will be worth it. Qiangang, follow me to fight that revived sovereign. If you dare to cower and tarnish the reputation of our Buddhist sect, I won't let you off easily. After saying that, he quickly fused with the energy seed Su Fong gave him. I just got a lot of good treasures from the divine prison of Heaven's Law not long ago. Qiangang frowned. However, his speed of fusing with the energy seed was not slow at all. The black-robed old man snorted. Buddha of creation, you Buddhist cultivators have seen through life and death. Am I a coward? If I can't even compare to a Tao integration cultivator like the Yin Yang God Lord, wouldn't it be extremely embarrassing? Chu Bingyan, follow me to fight that revived sovereign. Yes, master. There was no fear in Chu Bingyan's eyes. Instead, a strong desire to fight surged in them. The first elder of the Punishment Hall said in a deep voice, "The only thing we can do now is to fight the revived sovereign." What a pity. Our deaths are nothing to be regretted. The myriad of worlds can't escape this calamity. Sigh. Il Woyang was like a ferocious beast that had been forced into a desperate situation. His eyes were filled with despair. He secretly sent a message to Yi Ling with his primordial spirit. First Elder, can we trust the Yin Yang God Lord words? This person's words are less than 10% trustworthy. Why is that? Since the prison-suppressing codex has already merged with the heavenly Tao, how did the Yin Yang God Lord know so much? He's just a Tao integration cultivator. Even if he's a sovereign, it's impossible for him to know such secrets. Then what's his intention? He kept the G people's second forefather and the others in his internal space. He hasn't released them until now. Obviously, he wants to suppress the second forefather and the other experts. This person is vicious and merciless. Next, he must be planning to use Jiang Taijie to suppress us one by one. A Tao integration cultivator wants to suppress 4 peerless sovereign gods. This person's appetite. Since that's the case, we can seize the opportunity to seize the origin sacred mirror. Il Woyang and Yi Ling conversed in secret while fusing the energy seeds. Everyone quickly fused with the energy seed condensed from the essence of the heavenly Tao order. They felt that the shackles of the prison-suppressing codex had been reduced by more than half. Although it was still not enough for them to unleash their peak strength, at least they were not as weak as before. The array formation inside the prison-suppressing codex was extremely vast. Su Fong's speed was extremely fast, reaching the speed of a peak Tao integration realm cultivator. It was almost as if he was teleporting. It was already 3 months later when the Grand Elder of the Punishment Hall and the others caught up with him. There was a huge light screen in front of them. It looked like the heavenly marks formed by the order of the heavens, which intertwined into a page, blocking their path. Su Fong sat cross-legged in the air below the light screen, his eyes fixed on the light screen. As the light in his eyes flickered, they were filled with the divine power to deduce the mysteries of the heavens, changing into one illusion after another. His hands continued to form hand seals, which were dazzling to the eyes. Streaks of heavenly Tao order power were shot into the light screen by him. After the light screen absorbed Su Fong's power, it did not move at all. Everyone was disappointed. If they could not even break a barrier, how could they enter the central space and fight Jiang Taijia to the death? Another month passed. Su Fang's eyes were bloodshot, and blood even seeped out of the corners of his eyes. Due to the long period of deduction, his providence had been severely depleted, and a faint gray aura lingered around his body. If the Heavenly Tao Order was compared to a book, the tadpole-like text on the screen was the general outline of the Heavenly Tao Order, and the Prison Suppressing Codex was the main content of the Heavenly Tao Order book. Although Su Fang had grasped the general outline, it was not an easy task to decipher the content of the book. After all, the Prison Suppressing Codex was a supreme divine artifact, and it surpassed Su Fang's realm by too much. QL 11-inch, this page-like barrier, is far more difficult to crack than the shackles from before. Clearly, this barrier was originally inside the Prison Suppressing Codex, and the cage that shackled all the cultivators was formed by Jiang Taijia's control of the Prison Suppressing Codex. From this, it can be seen that Jiang Taijia has not completely controlled the Prison Suppressing Codex, nor has he completely fused with the Heavenly Supervisor token. Therefore, I still have a chance. Although Su Fang was exhausted, he was extremely excited by this discovery. At the same time, the process of cracking the barrier was also the process of comprehending the Heavenly Tao Order. As Su Fang continued to deduce and comprehend, his understanding and control of the Heavenly Tao Order became more and more powerful. Another 10 days passed. Su Fang suddenly revealed a look of joy and struck out a hand seal. With a whoosh, the barrier was flipped open like the pages of a book being flipped open. The power of the formation swept Su Fang and the others into a deeper space of the Prison Suppressing Codex. With such means, the Yin-Yang Divine Lord might be able to kill Jiang Taijia and win a chance of survival for us and the other worlds. The Great Elder of the Punishment Hall, the Buddha of Creation, and the others were all greatly invigorated. With Su Fang in the lead, the group continued to go deeper. Su Fang slowed down this time. As he flew, he shattered the insides of his physical body and turned it into a blood state, forming the heaven underworld samsara in his body. He wantonly devoured the blood crystals condensed from the blood chi of the hunchbacked experts of Sanskrit, as well as various pills and spiritual items. At the same time, he also activated the recovery ability of the dragon-subduing true body and the Black Lotus true body. This way, the recovery speed was truly astonishing. Everyone could clearly sense that Su Fang's aura was recovering at an unimaginable speed, shocking them once again. When Yi Ling and Il Woyang saw this scene, they temporarily dismissed some of their thoughts. Along the way, everyone saw the incomparably vast array formation space inside the Prison Suppressing Codex. In addition, they discovered sealed prisoners in some of the cages formed by the array formation. There were cultivators with evil auras all over their bodies, as well as big goblin and demon Dao experts. There were also some strange existences that had long disappeared from the universe. These prisoners shackled in the array formation were extremely powerful. Almost all of them were peerless experts at the level of Lord Gods. However, they had yet to discover any shackled venerable sovereigns. Some of the shackled experts were in a deep sleep. It was obvious that their divine apertures and yang spirits had been sealed by the Prison Suppressing Codex. Some had already died long ago and turned into corpses that had not yet decomposed. Some of them were still alive, and they were still conscious. Through the array formation, those awake prisoners were constantly letting out waves of evil and ferocious roars. The roars impacted everyone's will and Tao hearts. The Great Elder of the Punishment Hall and other peerless lords were unaffected. However, those path integration experts and some Yuan Tiangong geniuses were all frightened out of their wits. Fortunately, those shackled experts could not break out of the cages. Moreover, they had been imprisoned here for a long time, and their strength had been almost exhausted. They could not pose any threat to the group. My guess was right. If Jiang Taijia had integrated the Prison Suppressing Codex, he would definitely release these imprisoned experts. Wouldn't it be easy for him to kill us then? Fortunately, we killed his clone. Otherwise, his clone with the bloodline of the Luo clan would integrate the prison-suppressing codex sooner or later. Any random expert he released would be able to kill us easily. Su Fong rejoiced. At the same time, he was also very excited. Along the way, Su Fong kept breaking the light screens of the book pages along the way. He gradually understood that the prison-suppressing codex was actually a book. At this moment, they were passing through the array formation. In fact, they were passing through the pages of the book. Experts of different levels were imprisoned in each page of the book. The place where Jiang Taijia was must be in the pages that were specially used to shackle venerable sovereigns. As the pages of the book were broken, Su Fong became more adept at controlling the power of the heavenly Tao order. His understanding of it became more profound. Naturally, the speed at which he broke the barrier was also much faster. The consumption was also significantly lower. About 50 years later, Su Fong brought everyone to a vast formation space. As soon as they entered the space, they could sense that the shackles had clearly become over 10 times stronger. Everyone felt like a huge mountain was pressing down on them, making it difficult for them to even move. It did not affect Su Fong very much, but it was different for the others. If it were not for the fact that they had integrated the energy seeds of the power of the heavenly Tao order that Su Fong had given them, even the four overgods would find it difficult to walk. There were many objects condensed from the power of the heavenly Tao order in the space as well. They were like prisons that were completely sealed off. However, there were not many of them. There were only around a dozen prisons as far as the eye could see. These prisons were clearly much more powerful than the formations and cages they had seen before. The Grand Elder and the other supreme overgods believed that even if they were not shackled at all within the prison-suppressing codex, and their strength was not suppressed, it would be impossible for them to move the prisons at all. The Grand Elder and the other overgod powerhouses tried to sense it, but they could not sense any aura at all. Su Fong used his great perfection ability and combined it with the power of the heavenly Tao order. At the same time, he also used the life shrinking technique to penetrate into the prisons. When his sensing power came into contact with the prisons, he immediately encountered strong resistance. Fortunately, the power of the heavenly Tao order and the life shrinking technique worked together to sense the aura of destiny. Otherwise, he would not be able to sense anything at all. Although that was the case, Su Fong could only vaguely sense some faint aura. He could not clearly sense the situation inside. There was an extremely powerful aura inside the prison. Although it was sealed, it still made Su Fong tremble with fear. A venerable emperor powerhouse. There are actually supreme, venerable emperors shackled in this prison. Su Fong was shocked and horrified. The prison-suppressing codex was so terrifying that it could even suppress venerable emperors. Everyone, be careful. This is the prison that seals venerable emperors. Jiang Taijia might be inside. Let's retreat first and recover to our peak condition. Then, we'll find Jiang Taijia and fight him to the death. Su Fong secretly transmitted his voice to the others with his Yuan spirit. Then, he quickly retreated to the light screen of the huge book page. Chapter 23:13. A bunch of ants. Since you're here, why don't you dare to come and see me? Jiang Taijia's voice came from the depths of the space. It was like a surging wave, causing the array space to shake violently. His voice contained the power of an evil essence spirit attack, shaking everyone's divine apertures and yang spirits. Poof, poof, poof. Several early-stage Dao integration cultivators and 3 Yuan Tiangong geniuses directly shattered their divine apertures and yang spirits under the impact of the voice. They died on the spot. Even the divine apertures of the overgods were shaken. They all looked pained and fearful. Su Fong cultivated the night charm. Although his essence spirit was extremely powerful, facing such a terrifying impact, his divine aperture ocean also shook violently, and his essence spirit almost lost its consciousness. Thunder Buddha, roar. The Buddha of creation suddenly let out a ferocious and sacred roar. Buddhist divine apertures had a strong restraining power against all evil forces. Jiang Taijia's voice immediately shattered layer by layer in this Buddhist voice and finally disappeared. Everyone shook off the impact of Jiang Taijia's voice and felt as if they had walked on the edge of death. The power of such an essence spirit was really too powerful and too evil. The first elder of the punishment hall said in a low voice, "Although this person's essence spirit attack is powerful, it's not at the level of a supreme sovereign. Obviously, Jiang Taijia is shackled and can't use his full strength." The words of the first elder of the punishment hall shook everyone out of their fear and lifted their spirits. "That's right. I'm indeed shackled, but it's still as easy as flipping my hand to kill a bunch of low-level existences like you." Kikik, as Jiang Taijia's voice sounded again. A deathly aura surged from the erased space and quickly enveloped everyone, falling into a world of death. In a world of death, Jiang Taijia's phantoms walked out one after another with hideous smiles. They were like the god of death descending. Sizzle, a mid-stage Dao integration cultivator, was wrapped up by a Jiang Taijia phantom and drilled into his body. QL11, after a series of sizzling sounds, the blood chi of this Dao integration intermediate stage cultivator was instantly devoured, and he was reduced to a lifeless corpse. In less than 10 breaths. More than a dozen cultivators below Lord level released their heavenly Dao Dharma, or their strongest defenses and divine weapons, but they couldn't stop the phantom at all. The phantom took over their bodies, let out a series of screams, and they were quickly devoured and died. The phantoms that devoured the cultivators quickly turned into Jiang Taijia's clones. Finally, they merged into one entity, Jiang Taijia. Although this clone was not as powerful as the clone powerhouse that Su Fong had previously killed, it was still at the level of an upper-rank lord. "That's all. Kill him." The great elder of the punishment hall roared coldly. Together with the Buddha of Fortune, the black-robed old man, and Yi Ling, the four supreme masters, they unleashed their strongest attacks and swept towards Jiang Taijia's clone that had just been formed. Although they were suppressed, the strength of the four over-gods was still shocking, especially the Buddha of Fortune's Buddhist divine abilities. The attacks he unleashed were extremely terrifying, enough to kill any powerhouse below the martial emperor realm. Boom! Taiji ST. Everyone was surprised at how easy it was for him to do so. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Su Fong's divine aperture flashed with the mysterious Dao runes of the life shrinking technique. He sensed Jiang Taijia's weak destiny aura on Il Woyang. Il Woyang, who seemed to be trembling, arrived behind the Taijia without leaving a trace. Su Fong's divine light changed drastically, and he shouted, "Watch out!" But it was too late. Il Woyang swiftly stretched out his right hand, and it carried a dense aura of death and ruthlessness. It was like an extremely formidable divine artifact that instantly pierced through the Grand Elder's defense. He stabbed his right hand into the Taijia's back and crushed his heart. It turned out that Jiang Taijia was extremely cunning. He attracted everyone's attention with his phantoms, and the essence spirit hidden in the aura of death seized the opportunity to take over Il Woyang's body. Then, he launched a surprise attack on the Taijia. The Taijia was in disbelief. Then, his vitality surged into Il Woyang's body. He turned into a dry corpse in an instant, and even his yang spirit was devoured. After devouring the Taijia's body, Il Woyang's aura increased exponentially. He rose from early stage Dao integration to peak stage Dao integration. Then, he surpassed peak stage Dao integration and reached peak stage Lord stage Dao integration. He even surpassed peak stage Lord stage Dao integration and became a half-step sovereign venerable. Il Woyang's divine body couldn't withstand such majestic power and kept cracking. However, the surrounding aura of death quickly surged over and mended his divine body. In the blink of an eye, Il Woyang, who had been possessed, was extremely powerful. He was almost at the same level as the clone, that had taken over Luo Xingtian. Il Woyang's face twisted and changed into the appearance of a handsome young man. He licked his lips and said indifferently, "I've been shackled in the prison-suppressing codex for countless years. It's really boring. Then I'll play with you. I'll let you have a taste of being teased like rats before you die. You killed a peerless genius of my clan. I won't rest until you die." Iling gritted his teeth. Sharp and fierce arrow chi quickly condensed in his eyes. A fierce aura was brewing and was about to erupt. Jiang Taijia glanced at Iling with a disdainful look. He sneered disdainfully. "You keep saying that you want to take revenge. In fact, your heart is trembling with fear and your Tao heart is shaken. What do you have to fight me until I die? Let's attack together and kill him." Su Fong projected the divine power of the world of yin and yang. It quickly turned from illusory to real and turned into a universe. Then, he quickly formed a seal. In an instant, the terrifying scene of heaven and earth collapsing and the galaxy shattering appeared in the universe. The terrifying power of the Kai Tian seal fiercely pressed on Jiang Taijia's body. Boom! The body that Jiang Taijia had just taken over was shattered. However, in the next moment, another Jiang Taijia condensed from Su Fong's world. He looked at Su Fong with his evil eyes. "Interesting. However, it's only interesting. I am an immortal existence. How can you hurt me with your weak strength?" Afterwards, he sneered disdainfully. "If you were an overgod, you might pose some threat to me. Right now, the only thing that can threaten me is the sacred mirror of origin. It's a pity that with your strength, how can you use the sacred mirror of origin again?" As soon as he finished speaking, a deathly aura that was almost tangible like a demonic fiend erupted from Jiang Taijia's clone. Su Fong's world was immediately shattered. Jiang Taijia's clone was so powerful that Su Fong's strength could not withstand a single blow from him. Fear flashed in Yiling's eyes. In the face of such a powerful existence, anyone would feel despair. He, a peerless master god, was no exception. "Immortal? I will exchange my life for your death." The Buddha of creation let out a loud and clear voice. "Lord Yin Yang, if you can leave the prison-suppressing codex alive and help me take care of Qiangang, I will be even more grateful if you can support the Buddhist sect when you become a supreme expert." The Buddha of creation let out a divine aura and swept Qiangang towards Su Fong while he pounced towards Jiang Taijia. Great compassion, sacrificial seal. As he ran, the Buddha of creation's hands formed a dazzling hand seal. Golden Buddhist light constantly surged out from his body, forming a world in an instant. In the empty world of golden light, Buddhist cultivators rapidly condensed. There were a total of 108 of them. They were all wearing golden kasayas and were shrouded in divine Buddhist light. The 108 golden Buddhas simultaneously let out solemn and majestic Buddhist chants. They formed rings of light and charged towards Jiang Taijia. "Damn it, I hate Buddhist cultivators the most, especially Buddhist cultivators like you who are not afraid of death. Damn it, you will definitely die if you use the Great Compassion Sacrificial Seal." Jiang Taijia roared furiously. "It is my honor to be able to release you from purgatory." The Buddha of creation's physical body rapidly withered while the chants of the 108 golden Buddhas became even more powerful. Chi, chi, chi. Under the attack of the Buddhist chants, the deathly aura around Jiang Taijia's clone melted layer by layer. Finally, his body disintegrated under the Buddhist chants. His primordial spirit consciousness was also purified by the divine Buddhist chants. The Buddha of creation, on the other hand, had turned into a dried corpse. He sat there cross-legged with his eyes closed. There was a kind and compassionate look on his face. Qiangang put his palms together and kowtowed to the Buddha of creation. Su Fong also felt a wave of grief in his heart. He was shocked and touched by the Buddha of creation's actions. Su Fong said in a deep voice, "Qiangang, enter the space within my body. I will avenge the Buddha of creation for you." Qiangang gave up resisting and allowed Su Fong to take him into his inner world. At the same time, He also put away the Buddha of Creation's corpse. We've finally killed Jiang Taijia. Now, all we need to do is kill his sealed body, and we'll be able to escape. Yiling wiped the sweat off his forehead as he spoke with lingering fear. Jiang Taijia's voice rolled out from the depths of the formation space. You want to kill me? What a joke. Let's go and meet the original body of this revived, venerable sovereign. The black-robed old man also put Chu Bingyin into his inner world. Such a level of confrontation was not something Chu Bingyin could participate in. Instead, it would drag him down. Il Woyang's mistake was a good example. After this fierce battle, the great elder of the Punishment Palace and the Buddha of Creation had fallen. Other than Chu Bingyin and Qian Gang, all the other Yuan Tiangong geniuses and cultivators had also lost their lives. It could be seen how tragic this battle was. Su Fong, the black-robed old man, and Yiling flew towards the depths of the prison, suppressing codex. They came to a place far away from a prison. They fixed their eyes on it. They saw that the prison was already broken. Only the bottom half was left, and it had already become a formation of nothingness. Inside the broken prison, a young man was sitting cross-legged. It was Jiang Taijia's original body. Although the original body's appearance was exactly the same as his clone, the aura was completely different. The original body was divided into two parts from the glabella down. One side was surging with a vast and boundless aura of death, as if it was a universe full of evil aura. The other half was a normal human without any aura. If one looked carefully, one could faintly see that this half of the divine body was sealed with layers of restrictions. These restrictions were extremely shocking, far surpassing that of the venerable sovereign. Even the supreme existence of the imperial people would not be able to cast such a shocking seal. Although Jiang Taijia looked like a half-dead monster, he gave Su Fong a feeling of insignificance like an ant facing a divine dragon.